Right, we are in Whitley Bay for our next guest, back on my old stomping ground. We're at Whitley Bay Brewery, which is owned by Gaz Harding. Amazing little spot in Whitley Bay. Definitely get yourself down there if you get the chance. Across the road there is Tanner's. It is class.
Today, our guest has made 344 appearances for Sunderland, Leeds, Newcastle, Bristol City, Carlisle, Hull, Sydney FC, Newcastle Jets and Lambton Jaffers. Scoring 79 goals in his illustrious career, won the League Two title with Carlisle and has won 2 championship medals with Sunderland before being bought by Leeds United for £5 million, which was in 1999. So I suppose in today's money, what's that, 150 million?
150 million, yeah.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Welcome onto the podcast, my old mate, Michael Bridges.
Wow. Great to be here, boys. Thank you very much. A good intro there as well, by the way. Thank you.
Well, I think it's testament to your career, Bridgie, isn't it? That
well,
I mean,
you forgot about the injuries, mate. There was about 399 injuries in there.
That.
Yeah, we got a long way to go, mate. That'll be fine.
When was the last time I saw you then?
Do you know what it is, Sam? That's a great question. And I was actually thinking about that the other day because I went through the filing cabinet over in Australia to look for some, through my old scrapbooks that my dad gave us.
Yeah.
He had abundance of them. And I found the Shoot magazine that we did many, many years ago when we were YT. So I was a YT, you were a pro.
I've already shared it. I've already shared it on Facebook.
It was unbelievable how young we looked, you know, fresh-faced. And I would say the last time we probably saw each other, I think we might have played against each other for... I was maybe at
when was that?
Carlisle or Division 2 or 1. I don't know, mate.
I think we did. I think you were playing for Carlisle, weren't you? And I was playing for, I can't remember, it was Northampton or Tranmere or something. I think that must have been it, but that must be like 15 years ago.
Easy, mate.
It's a good thing about social media, though, because keeping in touch like via Facebook and stuff. And so I think that's the advantage of that.
There's a lot of disadvantages as well, Sam, but that is a major advantage, being able to see what the lads are up to. And obviously, I've been keeping an eye on the podcast. So you had Connor Cody, what a legend he is, and Joe Hart. I enjoyed listening to it. So I'm just pleased that you finally got somebody on that is nowhere near the standard of them two and has got nowhere near the appearances.
We were about to say we're raising the bar, weren't we? You've done well, mate. Yeah.
That was good. That article, it was laughing at seeing me and you and that. I mean, we'll have to share that, Gav. It's brilliant. Like, what? My hair there. I can't believe I got as many girls as I did looking like that, but I don't know what. It must have been something else. Must have been
I was still a virgin.
Yeah. It was funny on that as well. It had like you, because you're a year younger than me, aren't you? So
yeah, we always used to play against each other. What I used to love is back in the day, even before Sunderland, I was playing for Monks Eaton High School.
Yeah, and I was playing for St Cuthbert's High School.
And we could never beat St Cuthbert's for their age group because they had Johnny Taberham. Yourself, and another midfield battle axe I can't think of.
We had some good players.
And we couldn't beat you.
You got these lads on social media as well?
Yeah, but like I went to like an all boys Catholic school, so there was 200.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah. I was from Monks Seaton where they just take anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't matter about your GCSEs, but as long as I was like on a,
you're in.
I had no A levels. I was a GNVQer, so they just made they kind of made up a subject for my Monks Eaton High School for sixth form college for the lads that couldn't go to uni and get A levels, and they called it GNVQ in leisure and tourism. And all the A level students managed to work out that it was called generally not very qualified people subject. I thought it was brilliant. So
hey, God bless football for being God bless football. But we had 200 boys in our so we used to smash everybody. And I remember us played you in the County Cup final.
Right.
I think we beat you 2-1.
Extra time.
I think I scored.
You got 2?
I think I scored. I scored 2. I scored 2. We beat 2-1.
Were they crossing?
Exactly.
I was on the left wing. I've shanked 2. One's gone in the top corner.
Yeah. Back post, Sam. I'll just stick that one in there.
And it was just funny how we ended up playing for Sunderland together because you went the year before me, and I knew you were from Newcastle in the area. And
so good. How did all that come about? Because were you in Newcastle as a kid?
So I was at Newcastle School of Excellence as a kid.
Take us right back. Obviously, you were born in Whitley Bay.
Yeah. Played for Whitley Bay Boys
Pat
Club.
And Joe, lovely upbringing.
Yeah, I was blessed, Sam. I had a really good upbringing. My mum and dad. My dad was a policeman. My mother was a nurse. I was an only child, but I wasn't spoiled. But when I did get football boots, that was what I used to look forward to every year. I used to go down to the local sports shop every year, and I'd be able to pick me. My dad would save his money up, and he would let us buy a pair of football boots.
Love it.
And man, the Gary Lineker Quasar lasers.
Oh, do you remember them? The Quasar lasers.
Yeah. Went from I think it was like the first colourful boot that came out, and I remember walking in the shop and thinking I was just the dog's bollocks when I came out with these things on.
Did you buy colourful boots?
I did.
I can that's just no surprise to me. I would not have dared do that.
Gary Lineker Quasar lasers. I think they were yellow or like a lime green, which is unheard of back then. I mean, I would have been 12, 13, 14 at this point.
Before you even said that on the way up, I'd have just guessed that. I'd have guessed it from what Sam was saying about you and training.
No one.
You had to have a good first touch to wear them, and thankfully I had a not bad first touch.
It was green like this motor, Sam's been telling me, was it?
There's no one in like Newcastle, Northumberland, even in like the northeast who was wearing the coloured boots, apart from this 13-year-old kid in Monk Seaton.
But when I wore them at Newcastle, and I went to the School of Excellence the looks I was getting. David McQuarrie was the coach at the time. And I remember thinking, and John Carver.
Yeah, he wouldn't have liked that.
So he didn't like it. But the guys before, Peter Kirkley and Stan Nixon. Yeah. Stan was at Thomas Moore, Peter Kirkley, one of the North East legends. And what had happened, because I was at Whitley Bay Boys Club, I used to love playing with my mates from the area.
Did you play for Wallsend as well?
So Whitley Bay, we were in the division below and would always get promoted. But when we went to the top division against your Walker Centrals or your Wallsend Boys Clubs, who, I mean, Wallsend... the history, there's like 200 plus players gone on to pro contracts. So it's the best amateur club in the country for the turnover of pro players.
So that's Alan Shearer, Steve Watson,
Lee Clark, Steve Bruce.
So they all played.
Alan Thompson, I mean, it just goes on. Peter Beardsley, and we're all still connected with the club. And when I was playing for them, I knew that there were scouts going to be watching. So I had a couple of years there and literally got picked up by Peter Kirkley and Stan Nixon to go to Newcastle School of Excellence. And it was coming to the year to sign on as a YT the following year. And it was when Keegan was in charge of Newcastle and he was signing all these players. And basically, remember when he got rid of the youth team? They scrapped the youth team and the youth team had to go. Wow. Yeah. Because he said there's no... Mate, frightened him. He put Newcastle... He was brilliant for what he did for Newcastle United seniors, Kevin, because, you know, they nearly won the Premier League.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's a legend there, isn't he?
And what had happened, because they got rid of the youth team, they only kept on, I think it was 4 players, and it was Jimmy Garrity, Paul Mason, Paul Bryson, centre forward, went on to have a great career.
Yeah.
And I was told by John Carver that you're not good enough, you're not needed, and I was absolutely devastated.
Big call that is, isn't it then?
Listen, it's football. You've got to bounce back.
It'd be interesting to see when he sees you banging a couple in at Ellen Road a few years later.
Do you know what the funniest part about that story is? Like the players that, when they got rid of the youth team and they restarted it after Keegan's era, they had to start again, Newcastle United, in like Division 4 of the reserves and the youth team and build their way back. Yeah, it's incredible. Set them back a long time in that respect. Then I got lucky playing for the school team and Wallsend Boys Club. And it was a guy called Jack Hickson, who was a local scout. Spotted Alan Shearer, very famous guy. God bless him, rest in peace. He's upstairs looking down now. And I remember he was stood next to my dad at a match. Simon Foster, the striker, who was a goal-scoring machine.
Remember him, yeah.
But he was blessed. He was good at A-levels as well. So he went on to have an unbelievable life in London doing the stock market and bank management. Still good mates.
Right for himself.
But he was injured and I got an opportunity to play. And I kid you not, the scout was stood next to my dad. This is how funny it is. Right place, right time. Playing for the sixth form and after Newcastle released
you were playing for the sixth form as a year 11, sort of in your old year 5, yeah.
And I played as a striker instead of midfielder. I got 5 goals this day. And the scout turned to my dad and he said, this is genuine, who's the number 10? My dad said, it's a lad called Bridges. And he went, I've come here.
Unbelievable he is.
I've come... Hey, he did. He sold the story. He said, I've come here to watch Simon Foster. And my dad said, he's shit.
Go on,
this is where it backfired. My dad, my whole life, he was retired early from the police force, so he would take me everywhere for football.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Berwick, to play for Berwick Rangers under Warren Hawke, and we got beat off Celtic 10-0 and Rangers 20-0, but he just give us the best opportunity. He took us everywhere.
Love it.
And when obviously there's no mobile phones back then, he said, can you do us a favour? He said, do you mind if you can have a chat with the teacher to get that young boy's number? I'm a scout. My dad never asked where he was, because my dad's black and white, Newcastle at daft. And he said, I'll get it. Yeah, no problems at all. So he pretended to walk off around the goal. Pen and paper, I wrote the number down, came back and went, there you go, Jack. So anyway, after the game, my dad said, there's a scout going to bring you on Monday. I said, where from? He said, I don't know, but he was here for Simon. I've sold the product, son. I've sold you. So I waited for the telephone call. Sure enough, he rang and the phone went. I picked it up and it was Jack Hicks, and he said, can you come and do a work experience for 2 weeks at Sunderland Football Club as a trial, basically? We'll get you out of school and a work experience. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. He said, just get your dad to run you through the time tunnel to the training ground, Michael. And I thought, how am I going to tell me dad? Now, I never heard him. Are you allowed to swear on this?
Yeah. Go for it.
I never heard my dad swear much. And when I went back in the kitchen, my mum and dad were sitting there like meerkats at the table, looking up, going, come on then, son, tell us. And I tried to sneeze when I said the name Sunderland in the house. And I went like, Dad, you've got to take us to Sunderland. And he went, where? I said, Sunderland. He's a scout for Sunderland. And my dad said, I'm going to have to break your fucking legs. He said, I can't allow this to happen. I will not be able to walk around this estate. So my best mate's bar we are sitting in now, Gary Harden, him and his brother were the only lads that wore Sunderland shirts in Whitley Bay. And in the story goes, obviously I went there for 2 days. The youth team were playing the first team in like a shadow game. I got called in to play against the team. I picked the ball up. I megged Kevin Ball.
That happened a few times. We'll come on to that in a bit. Go on.
He chases. We're going to kick shit out of me. But I nutmegged him. I had Gary Bennett, the centre half.
Yeah, Gary Bennett.
I knocked the ball past him, and I was 1-on-1 with Alec Chamberlain. I slotted it past Alec and scored a goal. And I'd my first 4 touches. Yeah. And I thought, how easy is this?
How bad are Sunderland?
I turned around thinking everybody was going to be like going, whoa, brilliant. Yeah. Kevin Ball just came up with us and he got us round the throat and he said, don't you ever nutmeg me and make a fool of me ever again. And I was like...
Unfortunately, though, you did do that quite a few times over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I used to love it because he
wasn't your biggest fan, was he?
We'll come on to that.
So that afternoon, when I finished training, that was only day 2. They offered us a YTS 2-year apprenticeship. So I was able, because I was the youngest in my school year.
Yeah, because you're August, aren't you?
Yeah.
August birthday.
So again, I was right place, right time with a scout. You never know who's watching. I'll say that to anybody that's listening. You just never know. I was, and I took my opportunity.
4 worldy touches.
4 worldy touches, and then, like I say, in that right moment, and my birthday saved my YTS career because I was the youngest in my school year, but I became the oldest in the year below in the YT to start the scheme, and the rest is history.
Because you could do that.
It was unbelievable.
They call it that, those August birthdays, they're called survivors, aren't they? If you make it, if you're on August birthday, I think Roy Keane is, there's a few, because it's very hard in academies nowadays. Everybody's like September to December or January because they're bigger, stronger, of course. But
I remember shaking my dad's hand thinking, thank God you had sex with mum on that perfect day, man, or the day I was born. You saved my career, Dad.
Saved your career.
Incredible.
So then you come in there, son. So you were YT then.
Yeah.
So you would have been like what 16? You'd have been then.
16. I had the first birthday at Sunderland for the first year YTs, turning 17.
Yeah.
And that was a horrendous experience because I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And
I could have told you what to expect on your birthday.
It was horrible.
It was brutal. I remember like when I turned 18. I don't know if I was there when you first come. Then I might have just come just after. I was at Newcastle.
No, you were there.
I would have been there. Probably would have been there. Yeah, because I was been playing for the youth team.
You were chasing me around when I was naked with boot polish, trying to. You just covered us in boot polish, and then you just put Vaseline on top of it, so I couldn't get it off. Yeah. I was waterproof, and then you just tied us to the goalpost in the middle of Roker Park, naked on a cold day. And all the secretaries and girls from the office came out and laughed at me little bits.
Mate, that was all for love. That one. That was that was because we liked him. We wanted to get him in the group.
Would have left you alone otherwise.
But Gavin, I was the first one to go through that. So all the first years were laughing because all the second years were getting us, and then all of a sudden they all had like a little bit of a. They were going, hang on, whose birthday is it next?
Laughing. Oh no, my birthday's in 3 weeks.
Well, it's funny because actually the story you've just given there, you can say on air. There's a lot of the stuff that went on around birthdays and around initiations that you probably wouldn't want to repeat.
Well, I was my first birthday was Sunday. I would have been 18, so I was like a pro. So we didn't you didn't get boot polish and that in the same way.
They made you grow your hair really big and curly.
They did a tunnel.
Tunnel of death.
So you ran through, and everybody's just punching you in the tunnel. Yeah. But like Kevin Ball would be stood at the end, and like, everyone else is a bit of a jokey bit. And like Ball, he obviously wasn't the best with jokes. He was a very serious man. He's at the end, like on his tiptoes. And when you got to the end of the tunnel, I remember he hit me. I think I mentioned this before. He hit me with like a 3-punch combination in the chest. I had like a 3, but I couldn't breathe, and I thought he said he broke a rib. I was like, how's that? He's like, we like the banter, don't we? I'm like, is that banter? I said, like,
it felt like you meant that, Paulie. I'm not going to lie. It's like you've been waiting for that to happen.
Like, what, 3 bruises on my chest?
That was like his Mortal Kombat finishing move.
Yeah, he liked it. He just liked it. He liked it. Right, so you signed for Sunderland.
No, we're moving quick here, aren't
Sorry,
we?
go on.
No, it's good. No, it's good. We're moving quick here, aren't we? Because obviously, especially with the way you two talk, like a lot of people are going to need subtitles on this. So I've had it
You're
all
in
the
the
way up
northeast,
here.
mate.
Yeah,
So
of
you better
course,
shut up.
of course, yeah, of course.
You'd get beaten up back in the day on Whitley Bay. We had a
It's normally 1 Southerner to 10 Northerners, isn't it? So.
If a Southerner was up here when we were back out in Whitley Bay, I'd have chinned him. I'd have chinned him for his cardigan
I've
alone.
got to say though, he's the best dressed man in Whitley Bay today. Because nobody
I'm not
else in
sure.
the northeast dresses like this.
I'm not sure that says a lot though for Whitley Bay.
Look, everybody's got hoodies on outside and trackies.
This geezer's here walking in a cane and an eye patch out here.
It's great being back up north, isn't it?
I might move up here. I'll be like a superstar. But we're moving quick. So you've both come obviously from two different rival schools.
Yeah.
You've then sort of played against each other through junior levels. You've then obviously both
Teamed up.
Newcastle rejects, really. Is that fair to say?
A little bit harsh. I mean, Keegan didn't say anything to me directly, but apart,
pointing to the door. Pointing to the door.
He was pointing to the door. But I was in this because I did my A level, so I was like trying to play for Newcastle, and it was never going to work out.
And for yourself, obviously, it was the youth team that disbanded. So, like, you've sort of been let go, but youth team disbanded. You've done your A level, so it's mad, really, because we had this with Dave, and obviously we haven't even mentioned Dave's not here yet, but we'll come on to that.
Dave's not here, by the way, everybody. If anybody's wondering why Dave hasn't spoken yet on the podcast.
So, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a lot of lads that it's that typical route through football where you get released or you get promoted from the youth team into the first team or whatever it might be, but actually, along with Dave and Joe, you two have gone through like a really sort of unique way of getting into the first team, going to Sunderland, which is probably not really popular in your household. So now you're in a position where you know each other from a distance. You've now joined Sunderland.
It was even harder for me, Gav, because I'm a proper Geordie, because I'm from Newcastle. Like, obviously, like, Bridget's from Whitley Bay. So, like,
we call ourselves sand dancers.
Sand dancers. So, like,
are you like the posh Geordies?
Yes.
I used to come to Whitley Bay on holiday like once a year. Like, that would be that was like never come to Whitley Bay.
Yeah, posh in it over here. I can tell.
Cav doesn't like being this far up north, is he?
Oh yeah,
he doesn't know what to make. He doesn't know what to make of it.
We went past some moors and I was having a nosebleed. So you're both now at Sunderland. You both live. Talk to me about this hostel, because it sounds like a horror film, but actually you've got real fond memories. But
loved it.
Yeah,
loved it. Absolutely loved it. There was Karen and Jim ran the hostel. They had two
Amazing
sons,
people.
Adam and Gareth, who were obviously very young. Gareth went on to play for Sunderland youth team as well, and Sunderland, which was a great story. But looking after, I think it was 20 YTs at the time, first year and second years.
We had a couple of pros. It was me and Paul Heckenbottom were the only.
There was a lad called
like
Grant.
First year pros.
£90
a week, can't afford to
Irish
live anywhere.
lad from Irish lad, Gareth.
Stephen Grant.
Granty, yes.
There was Chris Lawless. Hold on a minute. Mark Convery's just walked in.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Hello, mate.
Did you ring him?
How you doing? I mentioned that was coming, yeah.
Oh, are you
Come for beer after.
Oh,
can we press pause, Wits, a second?
Sorry.
The lad's long-term friend has just walked in.
One of our old mates from back in the day. One of my old mates, Mark Convery, one of my best mates, just walked in from back in the day. He used to live in the hostel with us. Appropriate timing.
Good timing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Go on, could you tell us about the hostel, though, for the listeners to understand what it was?
So, 10 first-year YTs, 10 second-year YTs that used to literally bully the hell out of the first years. So we had to do all the jobs in the hostel. We always got the pranks played on us in the hostel. I remember getting a new pair of shoes. I think they were Yves Saint Laurent specials, I think.
So why is it good timing then? If you've got new shoes and Connor's just walked in, what's the link there?
Because every time you got a new pair of shoes in the hostel, you found that somebody decided to forget to use the main toilet and used your shoes as a toilet. And one of the main culprits has actually just walked in.
That's a disgrace.
I stuck it under your bed.
We call them the phantom pooer.
I mean, I was thinking you're talking about number ones, but you're talking about number twos.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't pretty.
The full on. He's not messing about there, is he?
But it was, what we had in there? It was brilliant that the culture and the camaraderie of everybody being together off the field. So, what it consists of was waking up in the morning, Karen and Jim would cook the food for everybody. It was there. You'd get your breakfast. You'd walk from the hostel.
It was an amazing location. It was right on
Seaburn seafront. Amazing.
Brilliant. Beautiful place.
Terrace house, 6 floors. Karen and Jim looking at it, and then we'd go to the ground together. We'd do all our jobs in the morning, clean the boots. The lads would train, then would clean the stadium. Rick Sprazier would get his finger and wipe every surface possible.
Youth team manager,
Youth team coach, Scottish guy. He was he was brutal. It was the worst headmaster I've ever had. But when you turned pro, you became the nicest guy. But as a YT, we were all scared of him. And if anybody forgot or there was a bit of dust found, there was accountability there because everybody got hammered and you had to stay till 5:30. And then we'd do the walk of shame back to the hostel, get your food, and then it would be ping pong and pool and beating the hell out of each other in the hostel.
There's a lot of testosterone in them houses, isn't it? I mean,
mate,
what you're describing there must have just been up and down the country. For me, I was playing at Exeter at the time, and again, massive townhouse right on 4th Street in Exeter, loads of lads in there together, like you say, picked up in a minibus, taken out, doing all the cleaning, white glove treatment and all of that. And like you say, there's a lot of testosterone in the night when everybody's tired, a bit fatigued from training.
And that testosterone must spread around the hostel to the surrounding areas because it used to attract a lot of the local girls that were Sunderland fans.
They could smell it.
That was me. Well, that was because of me, that was because of me.
Not with that bar, mate.
They could smell Sam in Mark Convery for sure.
Yeah.
But it was just brilliant.
I'm here, girls. Just give us a bit of time, girls. I'm just trying to relax here.
I've just finished training. I've just finished training. I'll invite one of you up for a rub in a minute.
Do you know what would bring you back to earth? Obviously, we were there with pros, so we could see the luxury that Paul Heckingbottom and Sam had in the hostel. So you wanted to aspire to be them as well. You know, they're not doing the jobs. They're pros. They're playing. You're watching them on the park in front of for the first team, so that was inspirational as well. I like they were kind of like I call it like a bit of a buddy system. We use that in Australia, where you get a senior pro with a younger lad, and you try and as long as they're not no dickheads,
as long as they're not Sam,
that are going to lead you straight.
I was going to say you talk about Sam here, yeah. Okay. No, good, yeah,
but Paul Heckingbottom had his own room in that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
he was allowed his girlfriend in the hostel.
He was the only one, wasn't he? He was allowed his girlfriend to come in the hostel and that because he was so lovely and so sensible and that. Like, he's a great lad, isn't he? He's done amazing.
So we were all thinking how he's got privileges and things like that. So you wanted to aspire to be that, and I just thought it was fantastic. On a serious note,
that is a great system, isn't it? When you're coming through as like a YTS boy, was what it was back in the day. And it's that brutal environment. To see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel is important, isn't it? And like you say, if Sam had come through that system like he did, and then now you're seeing him where he hasn't got to do the jobs, actually he is chilling out after training and trying to make up time for being at an all-boys school.
Yeah, you know? He was the only one we're worried about.
Yeah. But it is
trying to go back
light
to
at the end of the tunnel.
Lifestyle choices I'd made.
But it is that lifestyle, isn't it, that you get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So the buddy system's a good way of saying it, because I had that as well, so I sort of relate to that.
But it was brilliant, that was. And like, it was funny because they used to try and go out for drinks and that on the seafront, and like you couldn't get away with it, could you? Like you think you would, they won't notice when we're coming pissed and that, and you're like, of course they're going to notice, aren't they?
Well, I remember hearing the fire escape out the back.
Yeah,
and you could hear it creaking and crunking. And you were like, oh, there's the pro lads coming back in after the night time, but no doubt the YTs will get wrong because we'll have to cover for them.
Yeah. Did you go out last night, Sam? No, I think Bridgie come in about 1 o'clock or something.
Bridgie threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Legendary.
So what an environment that must have been for you.
Can I just say one thing as well about that? You were pro. I think I was the first one out of our first year YTs to get an opportunity. And I talk about opportunities, big believer in fate. I said I was in the right place at the right time with a scout. Simon Foster was injured. Took me opportunity. When I got my first team appearance at Sunderland, there was a lot of injuries. And there was also...
Who was that against?
Port Vale at home. I came on 30 minutes. It was 0-0. And I'd been on the bench about 5 times, and I got over the vomiting and the nerves and, cramped myself. And Peter Reid really broke us in gently, and it was Port Vale at home. Came on for the last 30 minutes and walked away with a bottle of champagne, a bottle of vodka, and a bottle of whiskey. And I was 17, and my dad just went, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. We'll take them off you." And I thought, what a stupid thing to give a 17-year-old. But I went back to the hostel. And I'm thinking, I'm Billy Big Balls. I've come on. I've got the Man of the Match award. And as soon as you walk in, you don't get handshakes and all that. Lads are like, "Oh, you were crap today." It brings you back to earth, and that was the good thing about it.
Brilliant.
But everybody was wanting to be in that situation. But they were happy for you. But it was just the level peg, and I loved it.
That's why it was so ground. Like even before you come, I was in the hostel, obviously before you, because I was in there not as a pro. Like just I was at school. I wasn't a YT, but even then, like even if you played well or something like that, you just still get hammered. Or come in like Jim or Cameron would be like, "Put the kettle on, then Sam." And I'd be like, just scored 2 for the youth team there. Like, I was expecting like a king's chair.
Yeah, but you also knocked 2 of the people out behind the goal with 2 of your crosses that you shanked.
Yeah. You've done your cruise ship trying to cross the ball. Brilliant. So obviously then it started to evolve for you, and so you can see now Sam's getting into the first team and you're breaking through, and like we've seen, and we'll definitely put up again the programme with you two in it, doing your posing and looking into each other's eyes, which was a bit horrible.
How amazing was that again? When Matt, I've already mentioned it. It says on there value, doesn't it? And it says on the value, Michael Bridges 750,000. It says Sam Mason 500,000. I said one of us has been massively undersold on that. One of us massively oversold. I was like, that didn't quite work out.
You've both done brilliant, haven't you? Like you say, and what a brilliant thing for some of the supporters.
That's generous. 50% of us,
isn't it?
But you've done great.
What I love going back to you say you're getting rejected by Newcastle. At the time, I also got binned by Middlesbrough. I went on a 2-week trial at Middlesbrough and got binned. So I was third time lucky.
Thank goodness for that, though.
I know. Third time lucky, but I used it as motivation to prove them coaches wrong. And John Carver was the guy that let us go at Newcastle. So it was no better opportunity when I'm playing for the YT youth team and we beat Newcastle 5-1. I got a hat-trick and John Carver came over and he says, "My God, I made a mistake with you, didn't I?" And I said, "Damn right you did, but you've inspired us." And me and John obviously met years later at Newcastle United, but it just shows you rejection was good because it gave us like a bit of armour. I felt like I think that paid dividends when I got injured later in my career as well, because I was used to setbacks and I never let it get us down.
And
we did an episode, didn't we, about resilience and the importance of resilience. That's
the word I was looking for. You're an A-level student. I'm
GMVQ bridge.
No, but that's what happens, and you're going to get rejections, and that's what we're saying like to young kids and that we come across now, like you are going to get knocked back. There's that Declan Rice story where he got released at 14. It doesn't matter. You're going to get everybody is going to get
not
released,
in sport. It's business. It's life.
Everything, and you've got to be able to handle that. It's not going to be plain sailing, and you can't just give up when things go wrong because. Million knockbacks, and we'll come on to some of yours in a minute.
It's really inspiring. Another thing we spoke about is accountability. You look at John Carver and the fact that he's been man enough to come over and go, "I got it wrong with you."
Yeah,
I mean that tells you a lot about the man as well, doesn't it?
It takes a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
he went to my school as well, older than me.
John did.
Did he? And so did Deck, and so did Sting, and so did the Pet Shop Boys, just to throw it out there.
I'll tell you what.
Pet Shop Boys, that's
so the difference between me and you, I've got my picture still at Monk Seton High School.
Yeah, I don't even rate at my school.
Until Stephen Taylor came through at Newcastle United, and then I got moved one peg down. You're not even on the wall.
I'm nowhere to be seen. Like
Pet Shop Boys got me like Sting.
I'm like, are we keeping Sting's picture up there? Is mine going up? We're going to stick with Sting. All right, then.
Sting really there?
Yeah, he's older than me, obviously. He bought a school minibus.
He's older than you, isn't he? So obviously, Bridget, then you've been in and around that environment. You're now getting promoted into the first. Do you remember your debut for Sunderland? Was that whilst you were a YTS boy, or was it when you'd been promoted as a pro?
That's what Port Vale, isn't it? You just said that.
The Port Vale game, but it was I had signed a contract. I was on 40 quid a week as a YT.
You're still a YT when you played.
Still a YT, and I was still getting me 40 quid a week.
Flush then.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I used to love rooming Summers, Johnny Somerville, because he used to come in with 200 quid cash a week off his dad, and he was my roommate, and we used to go and spend 50 quid on chocolates at the local. That was unbelievable. His drawer was just full of chocolates, and seeing him with that kind of cash, I got 200 quid appearance for Sunderland when I made me. So I think when you get your pay slip, I had me £40 for the month, so 440, Sam, 160. See that's good. Plus me 200 for the appearance against Port Vale and the one after. And I looked at my wage, I was like, "This is brilliant, man. How good is this?" So I returned the favour to Summers, and I went and got him 50 quid's worth of chocolate instead.
Great effort, love that.
The thing is, he didn't do her any favours. He was carrying a bit of timber.
He was always carrying timber. Sorry, Summers, but he's right. Like
he'd been told to lose a bit. You kept on feeding him chocolate.
What was your intention?
He got released after 1 year.
Was he a striker? Was he a striker?
He wasn't. He ended up as a fullback.
We actually never knew what he was, So we didn't know whether John was left-footed or right-footed. And I remember somebody asked him, and they said, "Oh, what foot are you?" And he went, "Neither." He was a legend.
So
good lad.
Was getting your pro with Sunderland a bit of a formality then? Because you've obviously broke into the first team as a YT.
Like I say, default. There was a lot of injuries at the time. And there was a bit of I think there was like a flu went through. I'm not going to say a pandemic because we've just been through one of them, but we had an epidemic through the club. And I got put in there. Obviously, I was playing well in the youth team and the resis, but I got in. The timing was absolutely like perfect. And Sunderland were just on a bit of a slump when Reedy'd come in. Remember, we were near the bottom. And the thing that changed my whole time at Sunderland, and I felt like I'd belong, because even that Port Vale game, you know, you're still thinking, is this really happening?
Yeah.
We're 2-1 down against Huddersfield
This
at home.
This is what I remember.
This is weird. In Borley, for all that he was like the hardest man in the world. I mean, I'll give you a quick one about Borley. I sat on the first team bus for my first travel, and I got on and I sat in one of the seats on the bus, and Borley came on and he went, "What you doing sitting in my seat?" And I thought, oh shit. I said, "I'm sorry, Borley," and I got up and I moved and I sat in another seat near the front of the bus. And he went, "What you doing sitting in my seat?" And I was like, how many seats has Borley got? So I got up and I sat down in another seat, and he went, "What you doing in my seat? Do you not get it?" He says, "You cannot sit down. You're going to make teas and coffees for the lads all the way down." I'm thinking, we're playing in London? And he said, "You'll tea and coffee and microwave the meals for the lads on the bus."
Yeah, I was delighted because that had been me for the previous 6 months. So Bridgie come along. I was sitting down on the back of the bus going, "Bridgie, 2 sugars in my tea, please, pal."
It was brilliant, wasn't it? They had us doing doggies. Some of the lads had 4 and 5 cups of tea and they never touched them, but I was just doing doggies.
That was it.
I got the hotel and I needed a massage and a recovery session. I was absolutely flogged. So the story about that with Borley, I couldn't wait till Paul Thirlwell got on the first team.
Yeah,
he was the next one, and I said, "Oh, sit here next to me."
Yeah.
And Borley got on. He went, "What are you doing sitting in my seat?" I was like,
"Yes."
Deja vu.
You're going. Just tell him to fuck off. Tell him to get lost. Go on, be brave. Be brave.
So the Borley incident, we're 2-1 down. I'm on the sideline, and you see me run on the pitch like this skinny little thing that I was. You know, the shirt was massive. I'm running on. It's a blowy day, and I look like the wind would have blown us over. First guy I run towards, Borley, like a brick shithouse. His arms were bigger than my thighs. He had this like Popeye tattoo. Remember the anchor he had? Well, he's from Portsmouth. He had like a navy tattoo. Yeah, proper classy. But I wouldn't have told him that. No. Borley, if you're listening, don't knock us out next time.
Borley, your tattoo's nice, mate, if you're listening. I'm thinking of getting one of them myself.
Yeah. And I ran on and I ran to him and he grabbed us. And you see him pointing at us. The footage is unbelievable. Everybody from Sunderland always asks us, "What did he say to you?" And he said, "You change this fucking game. You win us this game. Do what you do in training when you tear our asses out and you nutmeg me. You win us this fucking game." And I'm looking at him going, I'm shit scared. But I'm going to do this. Darius Kabitsky runs down the wing, crosses the ball in. I outjumped Paul Stewart for a header, popped it in.
That's not an easy feat. He was good in the air as well.
2-2. I never scored many headers. I was useless in the air. And then there was a ball came in from the right-hand side. Somebody knocked it back across goal, and Tony Norman, the old goalkeeper for Sunderland's in goal for Huddersfield, and I just managed in the 6-yard box to get a header past him to make it 3-2, and I just ran off, and I remember Mickey Gray and Borley, and they were just grabbing us, and at that moment, that's when I felt like I belonged. And I looked for my mum and dad in the top of the stand, and it was just, my dad, after so many years of supporting Newcastle, I saw him cheering Sunderland. I thought, that'll do me.
Yeah. Goosebumps.
So that's when that was the turning point in my career where I felt like I belonged. It was just incredible.
Talk us through, you're saying about nerves. Did you suffer a lot with nerves then as a kid?
Yes, because I was another thing for me, I was a late developer in puberty. Yeah. And I mean this like on a serious note. I actually playing for Newcastle Academy, I remember some of the lads actually had pubes. And I didn't, and I didn't like getting showered after the games. So
which is intimidating, isn't it?
Frightening.
Things like that are scary, aren't they?
And I used to try and get off quick. Yeah. And it always affected us. And when I finally started puking, I was at something, you're in the academy, you've got to make sure you're not getting much stick. And I was a late developer. So again, like, I was the getting to 16, 17, 18, I was getting physically stronger and developing the body after being like the stick man and the skinny little thing, and it totally helped us.
Stick man, yeah, I remember you calling you stick man, didn't we?
So even now when I'm coaching and I think about kids, I'll never put them under that pressure when you see them feeling a little bit down or they're sneaking off and doing things. You've always got to think there must be something outside of, it's just not about what goes on in the field. So the mental, I really took that into consideration with a lot of kids that are at that 14, 15, 16 years of age. You never know what they're going through. Yeah. Girls and boys, it's like a massive traumatic time. And I think there's a lot of things that I probably did at Newcastle YT. I know Carver and them let us go and got rid, but there was a lot of things that were going on personally in my life where I just felt like I was like not wanting to go to the games because I didn't want to have a shower with them after the game because I was embarrassed.
Which is mad, but I mean, I think kids are supported better now, aren't they? With things like things. So it was such a tough environment, and you'd get hammered, wouldn't you, for things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the lads would go in the showers with their shorts on, like they'd get hammered for it.
Yeah.
Well, like it's such an intimidating environment, isn't it? And
because at that stage, everybody is at a different stage of their development, aren't they, physically? And I think, like Sam just alluded to there, what you've got now is you've got the social, emotional, and mental health side. There's a lot more around it. Like,
a lot more awareness, isn't there?
Yeah, you know, like really, you have to have that as well as your coaching badges and experience and all of the above to be able to go for roles. Now you have to have an element of that in your locker. So, and I think, like you say, it's really it's quite good to hear, isn't it, that people are more aware of that side of it, because a lot of lads now are suffering, aren't they? They are suffering hugely. In different ways.
I wouldn't think, though, you were lacking in confidence. Like, no one would have thought that when you used to come across. If anything, it was the other way. Like, people used to, I would think, and he's having himself a little bit. Yeah. But actually, that's a bit of a front, really. Underneath, you were really nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were quite loud, weren't you? In the
loud and Larry loved a bit of a prank. Took us, like, you know, that was my way of getting through it. Yeah. You know, but then, yeah, like you say, it was there was a lot of moments, and I think when we talked about the injuries and all that, I did really hit rock bottom. That's when I did need friend and family around us to help us through that kind of dark period.
We'll come on to that a bit in a minute about Leeds.
So being at at Sunderland, swear word there for that. But being around at Sunderland, obviously you've got people like Bawley, who's obviously like this amazing character who, in his own way, really motivates you, keeps you on your toes. What was like Peter Reid like to play for?
Different class. I mean, if any, what I laugh, I remember really at half time. We're playing Arsenal. It was 0-0. We did a documentary called Premier Passions, and it was the first time that any football club had let a camera crew in behind the scenes when we got in the Premier League. And Peter Reid did not change his personality. He just effing blind and beeping. Yeah. And there's a minute at half time. So I'll give you an idea of what he's like. He used to call me soft, a little kid. I'm going to turn you into a man. And there's this 30-second clip on Premier Passions where he's looking at me and Craig Russell. We're playing Arsenal, played against Tony Adams and Steve Bold. Didn't get a kick of the ball. Having a nightmare.
Young kids, though, against seasoned, top defenders.
And up front for them, the Bergkamp, Merson, it was ridiculous. 0-0 at half-time, and Reedy's going, and you see the camera crew were like hiding, they come around the corner, you just see me biting my lip and going, and I don't want to catch eye contact with them, and I'm looking around and I'm trying to get the gaffer's eyes to go to Craig Russell, going, well, he was worse than me.
he's been shocking. Russ is having a nightmare, gaffer.
He's going, you can't hold the ball up, you're not giving us any relief, you're weak as piss. I see Merson, I see Bergkamp, they're backing into our boys, and I see yous, and I start biting my lip, and then I look at him again, he goes, don't look at me as if I'm fucking stupid, you. And I'm thinking, I'm done here. Then, a moment when I look back, he said, there's international footballers out there, Dennis Bergkamp, you're as fucking good as them, young man. Go and prove it. Yeah. So after hammering me for 30 seconds to a minute, he's said one line that's resonated in here. So he knew his players. Yeah. And he said something, and I went out and we beat them 1-0. So there was moments like that where really that I look back and I think, God, he was a tough, hard master.
Oh, ruthless, wasn't he? Like, ruthless. I mean, he did it, especially with like us young lads. He hammered us. Like I said, I remember him used to hammer you, used to hammer Russ, hammer Smudge, Mickey Gray, like all the people. I mean, like, if you give the ball away again, Sam, I'll rip your head off. And I was thinking, oh, dear.
But then you've got Bobby Sacks in the background trying to use the tactics board, and Sacco's doing it, and he couldn't. He's trying to use it. He's going gaffash, but he would never tell him to shut up. So Sacco was the yin and yang that they had. Really was an ex-player that had the motivation, the management. Sacco was the tactical genius, and the balance that they had was absolutely the dynamics that they had. I thought was brilliant, and Greedy gives me chance. But he really, really pushed the button, and we fell out probably because of my little bit of showboating and arrogance. Every now and again, I loved a trick, but not in the 6-yard box and not in your own D. He used to hate that, and he tried to drill that out of us. But I loved entertaining people. I loved hearing, like, when I got the ball, and when you used to get on the right wing, you'd hear all the seats go up around the stadium because people were excited when you got the ball. They were standing up.
But you were exciting, you were the flair, because that team was like, even when we won the championship that year, it was a real workman-like team. Like, look at Kevin Balls and have like Martin Scott, and it was solid. Like, there was no flair, was it? You were like, you were a bit of a flair maverick, weren't you? And I think
Smithy.
Martin Smith was a little bit like
the Pele,
son of Pele.
Yeah, son of Pele.
Yeah, but we didn't really have that, and I think that's what come with you is. But it was seen a little bit of arrogance. I think we used to think he's having himself.
Oh, I got carried away a little bit.
Having the little green MG didn't help when you rocked when you drove in.
Go on, tell us this story. So Sam was telling us this story on the way out.
Just to put in a context, obviously I was a year older, so I just got myself a Ford Escort, like bog standards, like sound, safe. Everybody comes in, nice new car, Sam. Yeah, thank you very much, no problem. Just keep your head down. He comes wheel spinning in the car park in a little green MG.
Hey, racing green as well. Convertible.
It's the only one I get, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. I remember
this was the Monday after he scored 2 against Huddersfield.
This is brilliant. Paul Bracewell, I'll never forget, when I was a YTS, I didn't like Paul Bracewell. I don't mind saying that.
He was ruthless.
I look at people like Kevin Ball, who were always there to mentor you. Niall Quinn took us under his wing, the nicest guy. David Kelly went through Sunderland.
Yeah.
Just amazing people. Paul Bracewell, I'm sweeping the dressing rooms after a game when I was a YT, and I'll never forget, he threw some stuff on the floor in front of us and he went, yeah, you can sweep that up as well. And his 2 kids were stood next to him, and he had Versace on, and his kids were dressed, and I'll never forget, Bracewell said, you'll never be able to afford something like this, son. And I remember looking at him thinking, what a wanker. And I'm brushing the stuff, and I thought, I always remember that about him. So when I bought me MG, I thought, I'm going to go and park it.
I'm going to park in the assistant manager's spot.
I'm going to show him.
Paul Bracewell
so I put it in the assistant manager spot. By the way, big mistake to make. He told us to drive it back to the garage and sell it, otherwise he'd drive it there himself. And I didn't have it very long. I went and bought an Aston Martin after that, didn't I, Con?
An Aston Martin. But the thing is, that's what you were like there, weren't you? I always remember Kevin Ball going, because he used to go mental with you. Like,
nothing wrong with buying things you enjoy.
No, mate, I'd never had a problem with it. And like I used to drive Kevin Ball. I remember Kevin Ball going, look at Bridgie, look at him there. And he went, the thing is, he's probably going to end up earning more money than all of us. And I was like, yeah, because he's better than us all. He's got more building than us all. But it used to be that bit. What I remember of you, Bridgie, is like you'd have training and you'd be terrible in training, or you'd have a reserve game and you'd be bang average. Honking. Then it would come to the first team and you'd come on and like you'd be unbelievable for like, and everybody would just be like, what? But like people like Bowley and
Huddersfield away.
Yeah,
me and Daz Holloway in the youth team having an absolute shocker. We'd played for the first team a few times. We'd drop back to play Huddersfield away, and I kid you not, I reckon I had 3 touches, and 3 of the worst touches I've ever had in my career, let alone one game. And I went hiding. And
this is in the youth team.
Youth team. So after the game, Daz didn't have a very good game neither, so he was the second year head boy. Actually, I think Daz had turned pro then, and we are getting absolutely annihilated off Rick's Brazier. I think we got beat 4-0 or 4-1 in Huddersfield, and Rick leaning into us, he's saying, and you two are meant to be setting examples for everybody in here. Absolute disgrace. You, Bridge, you'll never play for the first team ever again. His phone rang, and it was Peter Reid.
Tell Bridgie I need him.
He went, hang on a minute, and he took the phone. Yeah, and he's on the phone. Yeah. Oh shit! all right. Put the phone down. He went, used to. First team coaches pick me up in half an hour. It's a fucking disgrace.
You walk down your flip flop. See you later, lads. All the best. Sorry about that today, lads.
That was brilliant. The lads still talk about that.
Yeah. Like, that's what I remember.
Talk to us about that mentality then, Bridgie. Obviously, you can look back on it now, and obviously at the time, you'll have people who you'll be Marmite, won't you? Because some people will be like, yeah, but he can just flick it over someone's head and smash it in the top corner. You got Bawley's going, look at him, fucking look at him. Like, talk to us about your mentality, like. Because we always say it, no footballer goes out there not to try. But obviously, in them moments, did you just love them big moments? Was it the big occasion that meant more to you? Was it more of a subconscious thing? Because obviously, you're not going out there in the youth team going, I'll have a jolly up today.
No. I didn't know at the time what it was. And it wasn't until I remember going to a concert and watching Robbie Williams. He entertains. I love him. You know what I mean? Seeing somebody on stage. And I was a big Chris Waddle fan. I loved watching Chrissy Waddle at Newcastle United. He went to Spurs. I became a Spurs fan off the back of that years ago because I cried when he left Newcastle. Gaza went there afterwards. I was a big fan of Gaza because they tried things that were out the ordinary. And like I say, I was one of them fans that used to stand up when they got the ball and take notice. Yeah. And it wasn't till years later I'm watching Robbie Williams at the concert and he's entertaining. I used to think, bloody hell. That as soon as I went over that white line, the bigger the crowd, the bigger the occasion, the bigger my mentality or my drive became. And I think the toughest thing for me that look back maybe Billy Big Time-ish was when you went back to the youth team playing in front of 10 men and his dog I didn't get that motivation. I didn't get that energy level that I needed. But it wasn't. I didn't go out to underperform.
No, of course.
But I just didn't have that adrenaline buzz.
It's a subconscious thing, isn't it?
Dave's talked about that, hasn't he? Like, obviously he's not here now, but Dave talked about quite a few players, and he said like he said about Joe Anthony, the bigger the occasion, the more he'd won the ball. Aaron Ramsey, the bigger the occasion, the more he'd get on the ball. Like you'd see him and you'd go, oh yeah, he's all right, he's decent. But he'd just be like, give me the ball. It's that Rooney thing as well, isn't it? They step up and they get bigger and bigger. Whereas a lot of people then shrink or hide or get nervous. Whereas bigger the occasion, the bigger the crowd. Yeah, you might be feeling nervous and sick, but
how many players have we all played with that you've seen at a training ground and you're going, by the way, this is ridiculous? And they go and play first grade and you put them in front of a crowd and you think, where they're gone? They're like a chameleon.
Yeah.
And I've seen training ground players and I've seen lads that are absolutely honking in training and you put them in the big occasion.
That was you.
I wasn't honking all the time. I was honking most of the time, but I was.
But again,
you were
perfect world.
different. You were different. Like the centre forward, like you put the ball into you, thinking like to set it, but you wouldn't set it. You'd flick it, or you'd like
Well, that's why you were a godsend for Sunderland, because all I would do is drop off like you call it now the false nine.
Yeah.
It does my head in, because we were doing it years ago at Sunderland. You know what I mean? We played with the front two, and I used to drop in, suck the centre half out. The right back, whether it was Darius Kubicki or Chris Macon, would play the ball in, past the midfield into me as the 10, and I didn't have to do anything, because if the defender didn't follow you, you could turn and get at them. But if they did and they came tight, I literally just turn it around the corner into the right-hand corner. Look, Sam would be 10 metres behind the lad, but he would still get the ball. And then you had to try and keep up with him to get the cross in. And if he got 1 in 10 in, it was a bonus.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you sometimes turn it around the corner and think, I'm not even going to bother with this, I'll leave it. But it's a great outlet to have, isn't it? You always say, brilliant. Sam, don't you? Like your thing was being that outlet, like you get people.
It was incredible. It was, and what I used to I recognise that.
Yeah, it's
not that Bobby Saxon, Peter Reid said, when you get it, can you turn it? I recognise that I'm getting credit for doing this for Sam because of his
helping you out.
You had football intelligence, though, didn't you?
I read the game.
You could read the game. I remember really in like an intelligent footballer,
but couldn't defend.
No, he had no interest, did he? Because
but I suppose just going back a little bit there, what you're talking about there is you're talking about worldly trainers that can't perform on a match day, and you're talking about lads who, they're a bit inconsistent in training, but then can really turn it on a game day. I suppose your perfect storm is some of these lads now that you see in the Premier League that they have to be on it 24. We were talking about Jurgen Klopp, obviously Pep, what they're having to do now and what they're getting out of their players. Like they have to be on it 24/7 because that's the way it is. But if you had to choose to be a player who was bang on it in training and then went missing on a Saturday, but actually was a bit wishy-washy, a little bit inconsistent in training, but turn it on a game day, you choose that all day.
I'm taking
of course.
Game day, of course.
Yeah, of course you would.
So the only thing better than that
I made a career out of it.
Of course. Yeah, well, and some career it was as well. So
I'm not saying I was lazy, because I used to always win the races. Me and Mickey Gray.
What races?
Not the sprints, Sam.
Right.
The long distance, Sam.
Don't take that away from me. We're going to come on to everything else about how your career rocketed and mine fell by the wayside. Don't take being able to sprint away from me.
So I've heard Sam say about 1,000, well, more than that, 10,000 times. He said if it wasn't for the ball, I'd have played for England.
Yeah, that's true. I stick by it. But that first season as well, like where we played, then we won the championship, which I mean,
Well, survived under Reedy, and then the next year.
But then the next year we won it, and like me and you were like in the squad a lot then, weren't we? And I remember we got promotion.
I was 17, you were 18.
17, I was 18. I remember we won it. I remember the last game of the season, they called out all the players like in pairs. And me and you got called out like last, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we got like a massive cheer like as the young lads, because everybody loved like
it
the
was
young
ridiculous, wasn't it?
We come out and it was just
dreams, isn't it? That's
like
you're
17, 18. Like obviously only a year and a half ago playing in the County Cup final, and suddenly I'm thinking. This is a piece of cake. This is. I've played one season and I've just won a championship medal. And that was it. After that, wasn't it? It just went through.
The big medal was probably the heaviest weight I lifted all season as well, because I used to skip the gym sessions because I was so skinny, man.
I didn't. I used to get in the gym because I knew we had Magaluf and Marbella coming up in the off season.
So this obviously when you won the championship, you got obviously a medal. Got a Whitley Bay Brewery hoodie, did you as well? Is that something else that you got?
I remember that. After that, we went and sat. Was it Whitley Bay then we sat? We went back to the hostel with your mum and dad.
And then we went to the harbour or the Roker Park Hotel on the harbour side.
So was it
and we got smashed with the fans.
Was it just me, you, your mum and dad, and all the fans?
Smithy. My mum and dad and me, a couple of, and we were getting absolutely smashed, getting drinks bought left, right, and centre.
You were only 17.
I was 17.
Couldn't even deny it. Going to the bar. I'm 18. Have you got any ID, mate? Oh, I've just seen you on the telly there celebrating.
Well, a week later, we did the parade around the city, which I've got to say, that's probably the most incredible thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
The going around Sunderland City Centre on an open top bus and getting spotted with a bottle of Scorpion beer hanging over the front with my arm around Peter Reid's daughter. Not a good thing to do.
That's what he would do again, though. I'd be on it with the lads and all that, but he would take it a step further. I would
give Peter Reid's daughter a bit of a wide berth.
I'm saying there's Peter Reid's daughter. So what I'm doing is giving it a little bit of distance. Not Bridgie. Bridgie's putting his arm around her for the photos. I'm like, mate, that's not.
With a Scorpion.
That's not.
I was after a new contract, but it didn't happen.
That's not.
So, but the police are giving us an escort, and I'm drinking at the front of the bus. But it was just that to see the fans hanging out of windows on the rooftops. It's something that will stay with us till the day I die. And I experienced it again with Mick McCarthy when we got promoted. And we did an open top bus, but it'll never be the same as the one that we did the first time round, because the highlight for me was Mickey Gray grabbing the microphone and singing anti-Newcastle songs and swearing his head off, and the police coming up to take the microphone off him on the top of the Seaburn. He started singing.
Shy, wasn't he? Mickey Gray, was he shy?
We've got the best one. Let me tell you, when we were in Marbella and we're on the seafront, and he used to get hammered, Mickey Gray. He used to love a drink and that. So we all used to go away.
Couldn't handle it though.
It was me, him, and a few others. And it was after we got bit by Charlton. We went to cricket. Then we went somewhere else. Then we went to Magaluf. Then we went to Marbella, the whole team. And he's singing like Peter Reid peels bananas with his feet on the seafront, and like laughing
as he's having a pee in the harbour.
Yeah. So everyone's laughing. Everyone's looking at Peter Reid. And Peter Reid, in fairness, is just like he's just sort of half like acknowledging it, like half grinning. But you're thinking, he's taking that well, or what? You know, and you just think obviously you're thinking you can't sing that to Peter Reid anyway. So he ended up. He made us all take us all out for a meal, didn't he? The whole squad.
Me and Niall Quinn had to put him in a taxi because Quinny was a bit the senior and I was still the younger one that just hung off Quinny's coattails because he used to pay his money to look after him. And every time he wanted a drink, I would go and get his drinks for him, and then whatever was left at the end of the night was my money.
Yeah.
So Quinny was getting cheap drinks all night because I wanted more money in my pocket. So I had to put Mickey in a taxi. We put him in one side. He jumped out the other. We had to get him and finally put him back in. He fell asleep and obviously gone back to the Don Carlos Hotel.
Yeah.
Gone back down, I was like, what's all that about? And really said, you better have a chat with him in the morning. Tell him he's getting the next flight home. He's monkey-heated me off. He's peed in the harbour. He's disrespected the club. And I'm trying not to laugh and go, well, to be fair, he's got a right point, Gaffer. Yeah. So the next morning, I've gone in his room with Clarky. Clarky's got a cut on his eye. He smashed the fire extinguisher. He's lost all the money out his pocket.
That's all gone.
Do you remember the pool attendant in the morning fishing all the notes out of the swimming pool?
Yeah,
and he was putting them on the side to dry them out, and it was all Clarky's money. Couldn't remember. He thought he got mugged. He fell in the pool, lost all his cash, put his head through a bloody fire extinguisher. So I've gone in this room and I've gone, Mickey, you're in crap. He said, what's happened? I said, you not remember calling the gaffer Monkey's Heed? And he started laughing. I said, mate, you were peeing in the harbour.
This is on like Marbella front. It's not like it's not Magaluf.
Right outside. Right outside tonight. As I said, mate, you're done. You've got to get. Oh, I can't. I said, mate, you've got to get a flight. He's fuming. In Clark, he said, we will go and apologise to him. So Mickey went down and see him. He said, right, you're taking the whole team out to this restaurant, and you're paying for the whole thing. So Mickey's gone, that'll do me. Like.
Mate, so listen. So obviously, I'm Mickey's mate. Martin Smith's Mickey's mate. Like all the young lads. So I'm like, oh mate, I'll just have a chicken burger and chips. Me, you know what I mean? Like 15 quid. Like some of the older players.
We haven't seen the menu at this point.
I can't remember. But anyway, we were playing it half sensible. Going, it's on mate. You know what I mean? It's messed up a little bit. And Bridgie, you tell him what you ordered.
I saw the menu. Right, I'm from Whitley Bay. And a seaside resort, so I do fish and chips, and I've had a couple of crabs, but I'd never had lobster.
This isn't in like a rubbish little. This isn't like a
Marbella.
This is in a proper
top shelf
restaurant.
And then obviously Whitley Bay, I'm a pint drinker of vodka lime and lemonade, and I saw champagne. I thought, Dom Perignon Rosé. I'll have a bit of that as well to wash it down. I kid you not, I had 5 lobsters and 2 bottles of champagne. And Mickey hates it. He tells the story all the time. He said, I saw this 8-year-old twat at the bottom of the bar going, way.
Like all those, like the rest was all on me. It's all just having like chicken and chips.
Yeah, we'll just have a water, Mickey.
Yeah, mate, don't worry, mate. We'll look after you.
If you'd have got a flight home and he got fined the 2 weeks' wages, it would have been cheaper than what the meal cost him. I think it was like a month's wages, wasn't it?
We should have got a flight home. So you did Magaluf a few times then? Was it
Three
three?
times, I think I've done
Three
it.
in a row, was it?
Three times I did it. I said, remember the time? Oh, Con, I think I was room with Con one time. And we used to put, like, we were stopping at a half-decent hotel, me and Con. And we had, like, a mini bar, didn't there? And me and Con were, like, obviously, like, do not touch the mini bar.
Expensive.
Like, don't touch the mini bar. It's proper expensive. Obviously, like, we ended up getting keys to other rooms, like, we had Niall Quinn's mini bar. But every time the bill come round, we had, there was Niall, was it Niall Quinn? We had his, like, room, like, 106, and we knew what his room was. So, like, Con would be like, what's your room number? 106, mate. 106.
And then you'd have to sign Quinny's autograph.
Trying to end Quinn on the thing there. But then on the last night, I was steaming, me and Con, and around the pool. And I shouted something like, I'd give me room number away. I remember Con like, go, you've said the room number. You've said it. Everyone was like, right, I've got Sam's room number now. I know he's been proper taking the piss.
The biggest
But
sin.
everyone like 220. So everyone's like 220 or whatever. And we hammered it. And Milton Nunes, remember Milton Nunes, little forward?
I wasn't there, gone.
Was that not it? That was the hotel. That was a different time. That was the hotel in Tottenham, wasn't it, where we battered his room bill. Then when we come out, Niall Quinn's gone to sign out. Niall Quinn, is there anything from the minibar? Have you ordered any drinks? Couple, not much. Oh, you got a bill here for £1,355. He's like, Con!
How good were the away trips, man?
Oh, they were absolutely. What about you? Then there must have been probably our first Christmas night out. It was fancy dress.
I went as a skeleton.
Yeah, you were.
I went as a skeleton. I was actually called the stick man. I looked like a bag of bones anyway, but I got a Halloween skeleton outfit.
I went as a nurse, like high heels and all, like fused boobs. And then
did you? What year did you go as Little Bo Peep? Was that you, or was that Craig Russell?
I don't think that was me.
You go as a nurse.
I was
Surely
bog standard.
Surely you'd remember
bog
that.
standard, like a nurse, like 3 years on the bounce, kept the outfit and everything.
He had a body of Baywatch and a face of crime watching.
Yeah.
From the back, Sam in the high heels and the skirt. Man, you were looking
I was
good.
getting like, I got all. And then, but we ended up, we went into Idols, where we always went, in Sunderland, and we ended up getting in a massive fight. Remember, like Richard Ord and all kicked off with Kevin
Steve
Ball.
Howie, Batman.
So they were all, everyone was like fighting. Everyone was fighting and all that. Like Kevin Ball's dressed up as Madonna, like smashing people in this mass. Everyone looking there. I think David Priest has told the story before. The keeper, and he's like, we're in this massive fight. We're all in fancy dress. I've got a nurse. I've got a high heel. I'm hitting someone with a high heel. Kevin Ball's smashing everybody. It was brilliant. Lee Howie was. We talked about Lee Howie on the way up. I was telling Gav on the way up. He was on about, I've not heard of Lee Howie. And I said, Lee Howie was Steve Howie's brother. I said, all the Sunderland fans used to sing, Lee Howie, Lee Howie, Lee Howie, your brother is a cunt. That was the song. And he used to be standing there like clapping the fans. I was like, what a song that is. Might need to bleep that out.
Yeah, we'll bleep that.
The best part about that fight that you were on about, I remember a week later when we were all going, what the hell happened? We thought, you know, the guy that got absolutely annihilated. Can you imagine reading his bloody police report? Oh, well, Batman punched us with a kapow. Little Bo Peep smashed us over the head with the cane.
Yeah, nurse hit me with a high heel shoe. Yeah. It was brilliant, that was. But they were amazing times there, weren't they? Amazing times. So how did it all, like, so you had the Premier League the following season. Then you was then we got relegated.
Yeah, Premier Passions.
That was the Premier Passions one.
Yeah.
And the following season was the playoffs against Charlton. That was Quinn and Phillips that season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So did you play? How much did he play in that season then?
It was me and Deitch, wasn't it? So every time Quinny was injured, Deitch would play. Every time Kev was injured or suspended.
Just on the way up, Sam described you and Ditch as the shit Quinn and Phillips.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. It was like the double act, but behind the main act.
Yeah, but what a great guy he is, by the way, Ditch, isn't he?
He's a legend.
Great
Absolutely
guy.
brilliant.
And then the following season, they smashed it, didn't they? Like that's where I didn't really feature, but that was when they were champions. That was the Phillips, Quinn, Summerby on the right, Johnson on the left, Sorensen.
We had two players in every position.
Yeah, and then there was still Deitch, it was still you as well. So like, it was just an amazing team that was. Wasn't it?
I used to look forward to the League Cup because I knew I was going to get a game.
Yeah.
You played a lot though, didn't you? You played a lot of games that season, didn't you?
Because Kevin had a few injuries.
But also you were something different, weren't you? Like if it was tight, like if Quinn, which most time they won, but Quinn, you were like a good foil to come on, weren't you? Because if Quinn and Phillips it wasn't working out, change
it up.
But you?
But do you know what it is? I'll never forget. It was Ireland. This guy turned up because I was, like I say, there was me, Quinny, Kelly'd been there, Ditch had just arrived, and I saw this Kevin Phillips come from like non-league football and then Watford, and I were going, who's this little lad? I swear I saw him in the first 2 sessions in Ireland, and I went, I'm never going to play for this club ever again.
Really?
He had something that was freakish. Like I think I've only ever
Finished
seen
in terms of finishing.
It could just pop it in from anywhere.
He wouldn't
Any-
score.
any other
He couldn't
attributes,
score
Bridgie?
goals like you did, or could he? He couldn't nip past two people.
I was just about to
bend one
say,
in.
so like him and Alan Shearer are the two best finishers I've ever witnessed.
Yeah.
I didn't see enough of Robbie Fowler at Leeds, but we know God can score from anywhere, and he's a player.
Yeah.
But Shearer, 5-a-sides, Alan doesn't do step overs. Alan doesn't take players on. Alan gets inside the box and he'll head and
Shift
score
it,
from anywhere, and he
smash
can
it.
smash a ball.
Yeah.
Kev was like that. Kev would not do what me and you could do and dribble the ball and do that kind of stuff. But when I saw him finishing, I was like, man, I've got to absorb this, and not like we wanted that competition. But I realised where I was, and Kev was just absolute. And I'm thinking, how's he developed like so late again and come into our team? It was amazing. So I was lucky in that respect that I had somebody, Nell Quinn, that I said took us under his wing.
Yeah. It just has to be said. What an absolutely
He's the nicest guy
amazing
I've ever met in
bloke.
football, apart from you, Sam, obviously.
Thank you, obviously.
I'll tell you really, Gav. And then there was Kev. Kev wasn't that kind of player to take you under your wing. Kevin was focused and he wanted to be the top dog.
He's
And
quite quiet, though, wasn't he?
Very quiet.
He wasn't like a big personality, was he, or anything like that?
Nothing, no flash or arrogance about him, just did his job.
He didn't have Quasar laser and a green MG.
But he taught us in a different way. He used to always after train, shooting session, let's go with Pop Robson, do some shooting and that. And I was like, this is magic, man. Could watch him all day long finish.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was when the start of them, Sunderland doing really well. But how did you leaving Sunderland come about?
So it came about.
It wasn't a nice.
Wasn't
ending,
nice.
Was it?
Marbella. Funnily enough, Marbella.
Marbella's got a lot to answer for.
Marbella. So I was having a bit of an issue. I knew that Tottenham and Leeds were chasing us, and I knew the following season I thought I've got to break away from this football club to get more game time. I want to play more regular because I've been
You're too good.
Being the understudy, and I thought now's my time. And I knew there was a bit of interest.
Because Tottenham was really close, wasn't it? Tell us about that, because you met with Alan Sugar.
I was down there. So what had happened in Marbella? I said really didn't get on with my agent. And because I wanted to do the contract through my agent, it didn't go down well with Reedy. And basically, when we're in Marbella, he's kind of got us pissed. Bottle of champagne and a lobster. he knew
He knows your weakness.
He knew your weaknesses.
He knew from the year before what would get us.
Yeah.
Lobster and a bottle of champagne. I'll tell you who saved me arse. There was a contract came out on the table, and me and Reedy, I was ready to sign it. And obviously, I was still topping up from the night before on the drink, celebrating the promotion and whatnot. And Quinny came over and he said, "What you doing?" I said, he said, he's signing. He's finally signed. He's giving in. And really, Quinny was like, "No, you're not. You're going to go to your room. You're going to phone your dad and your agent. You're going to have a chat."
Fucking hell, fair play to Niall Quinn. That's quality, isn't it?
Big balls to do
Yeah.
it. So I went.
And the right thing
The
to
right
do.
thing
though,
to
isn't
do.
it?
Right
yeah.
thing to do. So there was always that little bit of conflict between me and Reedy after that. And that pre-season, I came back in with Alan Johnson, who Sticky didn't sign a
He
contract.
fell out massively with Alan Johnson.
Fell out
because
massively
you two,
over
I remember
contracts.
you two were training in the afternoon by yourselves, weren't you?
Yeah. So it was incredible. I mean, listen, to show you how much Sunderland meant to me and Bob Murray meant to me. Bob was
Murray was the chairman at the time.
Bob was the chairman. His wife was my sponsor, kit sponsor. So some of the lads had radio rentals. The local pizza shop sponsored Sam Mason, who was your
I can't
kids.
remember my John's Chippy or something.
Mine was Sue Murray. So it didn't go down well with the lads. Like, what the hell's the chairman's wife sponsoring you for? I'm like, I don't know.
Bally did it. Bally wouldn't have liked
Bally
that.
didn't like it, no, because he knew there was a new contract there. So when I fell out with Reedy and the thing didn't happen, I remember being at my mum and dad's house in Whitley Bay, and Bob Murray turned up at the front door, came into the house, and he said, "We cannot let you go. I'm not letting this happen." And I was like, my dad was saying, as long as Peter Reid's manager of this football club, what had materialised, I said, I can't let him go. He said, he's sorry, I've got to let him go. He said, Reedy's given Michael the opportunity, but I just don't like the situation because I didn't go to Denmark with the team.
Did you just feel like in that moment, sorry, just to go back with the Marbella incident, did you just feel like there was a lot of insincerity there, that you'd lost his trust with Peter Reid, that he's obviously trying to get your steam in, trying to get you to sign a contract?
I didn't see it at the time. And like I say, we chat and we catch up every now and again. It's, that's been and gone.
Yeah, of course.
I think he didn't like the way that I went about with my agent and all the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
He just didn't like stuff like that. Look, he was a bit old school one. You like I seen when he ever did contracts with me, he was just like, "There's your contract."
Because Tony Stevens was my agent at the time. He only had 4 lads. It was Shearer, Platt, Robbie Keane, and Dwight York. Yeah. And he was getting rid. He was bringing the younger guard in, like me, Michael Owen, Woodgate, and Platty. Did I mention? So there was he had like a high listen. Really didn't like that. He wanted me to be like. Yeah, level-headed, not get carried away. And I said, well, listen, if she was telling us to go with this guy, I'm going to take the advice. So it just didn't it came between us, but I wouldn't say it brought the trust because really was fantastic with us, and I was quite happy with the bubbly and the lobster sitting there, and it was
just time for you then.
It was, and like I said, I didn't go on the pre-season tour to Denmark. Me and John were training with the youth team, and the lads were in Denmark, and then I got a phone call. The secretary came out, the training partner came out, and it was really on the telephone, and he went, "You've got your move. Tottenham have bid $5 million now. Fuck off." You can
imagine him saying it though, can't you? That's how the phone down.
No, thank you.
That's how the conversation went, because he was still his piss was still boiling because he was, and that's how it went. And I was like, brilliant. Gaffer, I heard beep, and I thought,
Gaffer, thanks for everything. No.
So the story goes. So I get in the car. I'm going to my childhood club. I'm going to Tottenham, the team I supported through Gaza and Chrissy Waddle. So it gets down to I can't. There was a hotel in London somewhere, and I'm a sand dancer. I don't do big cities. And George Graham was the manager, and obviously he's Mr. Arsenal.
Yeah,
but he's Spurs manager. So we'll get there. And there was David Pleat, who was the 21s scout, or the 21s involved, but he was the scout of Arsenal. Scout of Tottenham. So as I get to the hotel with my agent Tony, them two are sat there, and George is going, "Oh, Michael, great club this." And I said, "I've got to stop you there." George, I said, "You haven't done your homework." I said, "I'm a Spurs fan. I know Pleaty, like, this is all the stars have aligned. Let's just get the deal done. You're Mr. Arsenal." I use them words. "You're Mr. Arsenal. I'm Mr. Tottenham, but I want to work under you," and all the rest of it. Looking forward to it. And then next thing you know, blue Rolls Royce pulls up outside the hotel with the driver, and it was Alan Sugar. And he went, "Oh, the chairman's come to introduce himself."
How do you feel then? Bit nervous?
Aye, totally. I mean, he hadn't done The Apprentice then, so I hadn't seen him.
Right,
but,
so you wouldn't know him.
So I'm thinking, "Oh, this is great."
He's still a real public figure, isn't he?
Massive.
Yeah.
And then 30 seconds of the worst possible way you could introduce a new player I've ever seen. He came and he went, "I've never heard of you." He didn't shake my hand. He just stood at the door. He said, "I've never heard of you. I'm paying $5.5 million because of the say of these two. You don't get much for your money. I'm buying a Sunderland reserve player," and I'm thinking, "Okay, now this
is going well."
Lovely to meet you. Anyway.
I saw George Graham. When you deflate like a beach ball, and he just started like going under the table, and I'm thinking, and I'm 19, just turned 19, thinking, "Where's this going?" And he said, "And you're not getting the money he wants." He pointed at my agent. He said, "You've got to earn that." And he said, "And I've got bigger things to deal with in property today, so good luck, and I'll see you for the first game of the season." Now, genuine. That's how it went. I looked at my agent. George Graham went, "What a dickhead." As Sugar pulled away.
There's no need to be like that, though, is there?
And I just went, "That'll do me." I said, "I've got to get out here." So they're trying to keep us there. Yeah. George Graham said, "Oh, listen, he does that all the time. It's just a bit of a showboat thing."
It's all for sure.
He said, "You'll get the money your agent wants." And I went, "Right, I'm back on here."
Hold on a minute.
Doesn't matter what Sugar said.
Oh, you should have said. That's fine.
So we've left. Gets in the car. Now, this is where Tony Stevens was fantastic as an agent. He had a good media connection. So gets in the car. Sky Sports, we've just heard the talk sport or the news. Breaking news, Michael Bridges signs for Tottenham Hotspur. So Tony's gone, "Oh, God, got to change that." So literally, he's got in touch with her. I've pulled over at the side of the motorway going back up the northeast, back to Sunderland. Changes the story, gets it out there to say that he hasn't signed. Peter Reid then rings. This is brilliant. Reedy rings Tony Stevens. He's on the loudspeaker. "Tony, what's going on with the deal?" He said, "I've heard it's fallen through." He has it. He said, "You better find him another fucking club. I've signed 2 players, and if I don't get that money," right? So Tony went, "Well, they've just announced that he's signed, but he hasn't." Oh, fuck it. So it's going off. So I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, Reedy's going to hit me even more now." Yeah. So the phone goes down, gets up the road, phone rings again, Peter Reid again. "Stop off at Leeds. They've matched the bid. Now fuck off."
No, this time
just go. So Bridgie, just go, will ya?
So the difference meeting O'Leary and Ridsdale at the training ground was just, they showed you around everywhere. Some of the players were there to meet you around the stadium. It was just an unbelievable insight. And I remember watching Leeds United play Manchester United the season before with Con on my floor after a night out in Whitley Bay and Mark Maley, and we were watching Leeds play Man United, and we were going, "What a team that is, youngsters," because there was Harry Kewell, Alan Smith, Ian Hart, Woodgate, Robinson, McPhail. And when we played for Sunderland, it's the only team that we could not beat in the youth league. Yeah, they won everything. Won absolutely everything. Won the FA Youth Cup as well with that. So I remember watching them, and we're looking at this. We've got hangovers on my bedroom floor the year before, going, "Can you imagine playing? Imagine seeing these Man United or Leeds United." I've got this opportunity, and I'm at the training ground like 6 months later, thinking,
Perfect club.
what am I doing here? But I'm going to take this opportunity. Signed, loved it in the first day of pre-season. I'm thinking, man, I've got to up my game here. I was the stick man was carrying a bit of weight, but I saw the standard and the level.
Yeah.
Who was a standout? Who was class?
Harry Kuehl.
Amazing.
And
Alan Smith?
Smudger came the year after. He came through a little bit later, but Smudger...
Harry Kuehl was next level.
Outrageous. Couldn't just die. Frightening. So you couldn't get the ball off Stephen McPhail.
Yeah.
Lucas Radebe was a true leader. Woody was probably a defender ahead of his time, a bit like Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Ball player. And just the fitness levels was ridiculous.
Ian Hart's left foot was a joke, wasn't it?
Ridiculous. But he was slow. David Beckham burned him off.
Oh, yeah.
It was so funny. That was part of the analysis session with Eddie Gray one day. He put Ian Hart. Beckham knocked the ball past Harty, and Harty looked like he was running with a parachute and quicksand. In the analysis, analysis session went Beck's going past him, and then he rewound it, and then he went, and all the lads were laughing.
So that first season as well went unbelievable.
Yeah,
you come fourth in the Prem.
Well,
you UEFA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
You scored 20 odd goals. Who was top scorer that season? You must have been in the top 3 or 4 in the Prem that season.
You know who won it?
Shearer.
No, the one I tried to get rid of, and left Sunderland to move and play. Kev won it with 32 or something.
So Kev Phillips got.
So Kev won it. I think it was then
Hasselbank.
Hasselbank had gone Atletico Madrid because I'd come in for him.
Was Shearer?
Shearer on. Oh, it was Kev, Shearer, me, Henri, York.
Oh, that's
just
not
drop
bad,
that.
is
Just
it?
drop the mic. Drop.
Great.
So you keep
That's the top 5.
Thanks ever so much for being on In the Stiffs today.
That's not bad. That is
it was hilarious.
Not bad.
So I put every I was so close to Harry Kuehl on off the field. He was my next door neighbour, and Harry. I've never played with anybody. Sorry, Sam. I've never played with anybody that I had this connection with on and off the field like me and him did. Yeah. So whenever he scored, I'd kind of set him up, and I look back at a lot of my goals. Harry it was just a joy, man.
There was that amazing thing that got shared yesterday with good timing. Dave sent us that on the Optus Sport that there's only three players under the age of 21 who scored 10 goals. Obviously Smith, Rowe and Saka. Yeah. The other ones are Rooney and Ronaldo, Bridges and Kuehl. And you thought that's pretty impressive. That
was hilarious when I came out yesterday. I tweeted Harry and texted him, and I just said,
you two still really good friends now?
Good mates, yeah. Keep in touch with him because he's like the brother I never had. Living next door to him. Yeah, first lad I met when I went to Leeds. Bought a house, didn't realise he lived next door, and then saw BMW with a registration Kuehl, and I thought, he's more flash than me.
Yeah, I'll fit in here, I'll be all right. I'm going to be on the champagne and
I'll get on all right with
You know what I did? I rang Paul Bracel, I said, come and have a look what Harry's got. Come and tell him off, drive his car back.
Yeah, so that was an amazing group then. So David O'Leary had a brilliant group of lads
Fit as you like.
What you lot, that was your strength. You were fit as anything.
Just fit. I mean, I had to train three times a day with a guy called Ed Baranowski just to get up to standard with the lads in pre-season. And I worked my arse off with a lad called Danny Hay. And Ed Baranowski, I owe him absolutely everything. He got me fit as a fiddle. I was playing catch-up after being out of the 2 weeks with Sunderland and living in Alton Hall, and just worked my socks off. And it was when O'Leary sold Jimmy Floyd, and he said, you've got to learn to swim quick because you're going to get an opportunity. So we're playing Derby first game, new signing, Elland Road, comes out, 0-0 board draw, worst game of football I've ever seen, let alone playing. And I remember the fans going, he's shite. Yeah. 5.5 million for he's shite, get Jimmy back. And then away from Elland Road, Southampton the next game, I didn't feel the pressure and popped in a hat-trick. And I remember David Batty ran up and he said, "You've arrived." That was the the Bawley incident when I felt like the David Batty incident was the one.
How did you feel then, Leeds? How are you like? Because again, I can imagine like you were loud at Sunderland. You were confident. You were trying to flick it. You were trying to meg Bawley. Like, did you go into Leeds like that? Were you trying to meg David Batty in the first couple of weeks?
Not Batty, but Lucas Radebe. But I wouldn't nutmeg him ever again neither.
Does he not take it well?
Man, I've still got scars on the back of my calves off Lucas. But the standard had gone through the roof. Like, Harry picked the ball up, and even I was getting nutmegged off Woody as a defender.
Yeah, hold on a minute. I'm not used to this. I'm used to like this.
Gary Bennett never nutmegged us.
Gary Bennett wasn't nutmegging anybody. Yeah, you suddenly got Woody going, hold on, this centre off here with a fantastic touch.
So again,
were you nervous though? Were you?
I didn't belong there. I didn't, like I say,
you imposter syndrome at the start.
Completely, and just felt so out of touch with where I was and pinching myself, thinking, right, you've got to work your socks off to get here.
Is that what you did? So your mentality then is, I'm out of my depth a little bit here.
Completely.
I have got to knuckle down. So you haven't gone under. You've thought, right, I'm going to knuckle down and show what I've got. I've got to raise my level, raise the bar.
And no disrespect to our team at Sunderland, this team, the international level was on a whole different ball game.
Of course, yeah.
My football education went through the roof. David O'Leary was not an unbelievable tactical manager. Eddie Gray was. Yeah. O'Leary had money to spend, and he spent it very wisely. Bought the best young talent around the country. And like with senior pros, we had a very strong spine of senior players. But Sam trained every day against Lucas Radabin, Jonathan Woodgate. You've
got to be on it. You've got to be your best.
And it's when you look back and you go, my football education and how shit I was at the start to where I ended up being at the end, it had gone through the roof. So I always say the better your players you're playing with throughout your career, whether you're training or nothing, you will get better.
Because this is in contrast now, though, isn't it? From when you were, like you say, you're 19 at Sunderland and you're a bit a bit inconsistent in training. Now do you feel like, right, I'm doing it in games. Now I've actually got to be on it constantly. You had to be, yeah. So we were talking about that perfect storm. That's now experience, I suppose.
I think that came with experience and wanting it more, knowing that what I'd gone through in the move.
Yeah.
Leaving Sunderland, I got a lot of stick off the fans as well for leaving because they didn't know the whole story of what had gone on. And it was, but I was,
because it ended up, Bridget, going on to be an unbelievable first season for you. Champions League semi-final,
UEFA semi-final that year, Champions League the year after. But we're top of the league against Derby. We beat Derby. Harry Kewell took a dive in the penalty box. He still says he got clipped. Sky Sports, there was nobody near him. Left foot wizard Harry Harty stepped up, slotted the penalty away. We're top of the league at Christmas, top of the Premier League. We're on the bus coming back. We're partying. We went to the Peacock pub midnight. It was stopping.
You had a good set of lads like that who would get together, socialise.
One in all in. It was one and all in.
And it's a good age, isn't it? You got a lot of young lads there.
Absolutely magnificent. So we were just together. And I remember ripping all the shirts. Gary Kelly used to love ripping people's shirts and ties and that. And we've got ties when we're heading the Peacock, the Leeds United ties, where white shirts are ripped.
Loved it.
We thought we'd won the Premier League. Now, we ended up getting beaten the end of the year by 22 points to Man United. But we thought we won it at Christmas.
But you were kids though, weren't you, as Man United seasoned?
Man United won it before they knew how to win it. Ferguson knew how to win it. Yeah. Arsenal had won it. They knew how to win stuff. We were a young set of lads that none of us had won the Premier League bar David Batty were Blackburn.
Yeah.
And O'Leary'd never won it.
Yeah, just inexperience.
Absolutely.
So that's first season. We know what was a surprising statistic. When I looked, I thought you scored 21 goals, whatever, but like top 5 in the Prem. You got 9 yellow cards that season. What was that for?
No, I didn't.
It says 9 yellow cards. I looked it up on Wikipedia.
What a petulant dick.
I said, I don't know what that's for. That's not for. That's obviously
kicking the ball away.
That's kicking the ball away. That's flicking someone's heels. Pulling someone's hair. That's been horrible.
The hat trick I scored against Southampton. There's a brilliant clip where Danny Mills goes down the right. Yeah. The defenders are facing their own goal, and I'm behind him, and I heel tap him on the edge of the box, and he goes down in a heap. And Danny crosses the ball, and I slotted home, and you see him complain to the referee. And
no VAR.
No VAR back then. The heel tap was amazing. But the yellow card I got for Sunderland was probably the funniest yellow card I've ever gotten against Coventry, and I don't know if you were playing. Dion Dublin got sent off.
Oh, no, I can't remember that.
Far left-hand side, I've gone down. Dion's behind us. I've done the old little petulant kick out, kicked him in the shin. Didn't know who was behind us.
Dublin.
So as I've turned around, Dion's looked down at us and he's just hoofed us in the balls.
Is this? I'm sure I've seen this recently.
So I've started rolling around, holding me nuts. Referee gives me a yellow card and sends Dion Dublin off, and Dion's just lost it. Like,
I saw this recently.
So me, like Sammy says, I was cheeky. I give him the old little wave.
Oh no! I'm keeping away from him. I think I'm gonna get killed in the tunnel.
Remember Coventry? You went out the back of the goal.
Yeah.
I remember coming off at half time, and all I saw was Dion at the back of the tunnel waiting for us, and he's got his top off, and I went, Bally!
Kevin!
First time I've called for Bally. He said, what do you want? I said, Dion's in the tunnel. He said, get behind me, I'll fucking kill him.
Oh, did he?
So
Dion did he really?
Yeah. Go on, Dion.
So when Bally's gone to me, you won't touch him. I went, like that. Oh, mate. I hadn't seen Dion for years. Question of Sport, 3 years later, we're in the green room. There was Matty Elliott, Leicester,
Leicester
me, and Dion. And he walked in and he went, hello, young man. I went, I didn't know you were on the show. He said, I've just come on personally to kick shit out of you.
Sorry, Dion.
What a legend.
Love that.
Who's harder, David Batty or Kevin Ball?
Different. Right, I'll give you an example. Borley on the field.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Because I remember when he said he'll take Vinny on one-on-one when we played Wimbledon. He said, you boys go and win the game. Play 10v10. I'll take Vinny on.
Remember that time he broke his jaw that time as well, and he wanted to carry on. There was a massive gap, and his jaw was just hanging off.
He actually looked
all right.
He actually looked better looking.
Yeah. Couldn't really notice. I was like, I think it's broken.
So the difference between Borley and Batty was like an unsung hero. Both players would probably be the lads that I would put on the team sheet first for that position. Defensive midfield in different ways. Batty was just incredible. The difference between Batty and Borley, I think, was a psychological thing. So here's one for you about Batty. You remember when he missed the
penalty for England, didn't he?
It took us about 2 months to ask him. I love football. It took us about 2 months to ask him how he felt after that. And he actually said, when I got the balls up, I said, Bat, you know when you missed the penalty? He said, I don't care. I said, what do you mean, Bats? He said, don't even like football. Pays the bills. I was like, Bats, what? He said,
that's a bit of his armour.
He said, I don't, Bridget. He said, my money is all going towards a motorbike GP team when I retire. And I was like, what? So anyway, I couldn't get my head around that. So he had but he would be unbelievable footballer.
Yeah.
So there's one day we're sitting and we're all on the bus, and we used to love either doing a karaoke or we used to have we used to all vote for the best singer on the bus, and we'd all have to do stuff like that. It was just an unbelievable bond. And then this day we played a game, what would you do if you could? What could you do? So, some of the lads are going, I'd love to lift the World Cup, or, some of the lads are going, I'd love to be in the Playboy Mansion for one weekend and stuff like that. So it's got to David Batty, and he went, what would you love to do? And Bats went, I would love to come home to my house and catch a robber with me 3 mates. Would get a chair, would put it in the garage, would tie him up, and we would torture the bastard for 2 weeks.
And we're going, whoa, we got a bit dark on his head.
You're not bad. You can do anything, mate. It's not confined to your garage. You can do anything.
The lads are doing the moonwalk away from the dinner table going, he's fucking mad.
Not right, yeah.
And he was deadly serious. Yeah. The best one was, I would sit under the chair and I'd flick his testicles. He's weird, mate, honestly.
Give this a bit of thought then?
Yeah. Weird. And he never travelled to away games.
What do you mean?
He wouldn't, European games, he was scared of flying.
Oh, right,
a bit like Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah.
So he never played in Europe away from home, but as soon as he retired, he flew his family to America. He's a smart man, mate. He's a smart man.
Fucking quality.
So you had that amazing season then, didn't you? And then the second season, you got the semi-final of the Champions League, didn't you? And you come third or something, third again, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I'd only played I'd only played 4 matches in that. That's when I snapped my leg.
Go on, talk us through that.
Yeah.
Then.
So again, we're beating. A good story about AC Milan. We beat them 1-0 at home. Now you're talking Maldini, Costa Curta, Shevchenko, Gattuso, and Dida was the goalkeeper.
Do they have any good players? Or
see, I'm looking around thinking, what the hell am I doing? So
crazy.
You must have feel like you belong now, though. You've smashed the Prem.
No.
You still
Sam,
don't feel like
we're playing Barcelona at the new camp. We're playing AC Milan. I'm trying to wave at my mum and dad at the new camp and looking for them.
How amazing that!
And then I saw the scoreboard and we're getting beat 4-1. I'm thinking, Christ, I better try and do something.
You stop waving now.
I'm just waving like I was a kid. I was living my dream, and I was playing against the best teams in the world and the best players in the world. So me and Harry Kewell up front against AC Milan. Maldini's playing left side, Costa Curta's right side, centre back. So obviously Harry's left footed, he's playing against Costa Curta, I'm playing against Maldini, can't get a touch of the ball. I kid you not, couldn't get a touch of the ball. So I've given it the old 70th minute. I love collecting shirts. So I've done the old wave towards the bench. I've looked at O'Leary and Eddie Gray, and I'm pretending that I'm chatting to them. So I've come back to Harry Kewell and I said, we've got to swap sides. You've got to go and play Maldini, and I'm going to play Costa Curta. And he's gone, what? I said, just do it. So anyway, I got started getting on the ball. I'm playing a few touches, playing Lee Boyer in. And then all of a sudden, I heard Eddie go, hey, what are you doing? Swap. And Harry, when he told us, I'm going, I never said
anything. I never said anything. Get me away from Maldini. I'm not getting much from him
So we've swapped for the last 5 minutes. Anyway, Dida's dropped the ball through his hands. Lee Boyer scored. We've gone 1-0 up. And I looked at the clock and I turned around and I saw Maldini and I'm going, this is brilliant. 90 minute, 1-0 up AC Milan. I'm getting Maldini's shirt here.
Brilliant.
Unbelievable. So whistle goes, shaking hands. Maldini, shirt. backfired, didn't it? He went, no, Q asked before, sorry. I went, oh, shit. So I ran up and I've Shevchenko, shirt.
Yeah.
He went, no, Radivi, sorry. Well played. Killing me. So Costa Curta's not a bad one to get.
No, great one.
So I've got Costa Curta.
He'd be thrilled to be third choice there.
Swap shirts. Anyway, Milan did a lap of honour around Elland Road because we knocked them out. I've never seen it before. So we're clapping our fans.
Yeah.
Fans were giving AC Milan a clap. And as we're walking off as young kids, we're showing each other shirts.
That's mad.
Who did you get? Oh, shit, like Maldini. Oh, bastard, yeah. How you got Costa Curta? As I looked around, Costa Curta, they're clapping our fans at the far end of the stadium, and he looked at the back of my shirt and he went, stuff that. He threw it into the crowd. Right? The biggest, most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. The lads were laughing, they loved it. So years later, social media, I put this story out, and I got a tweet off somebody saying, "Do you want to buy your shirt back? I was the one that got it off Costa Curta."
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
So I've got all these on my wall, and I don't know what they're probably washing their cars and crap with mine. You know what I mean?
Class.
But we were living the dream.
Oh, amazing.
And after beating them and getting through the group stages, played Besiktas.
Yeah.
And that's when I snapped my leg. I like literally the most innocuous. I've got nothing to show the kids of how Dad got injured. I literally went to make a run down the channel, a ball from Gary Kelly, leg got twisted somehow, don't know what happened, knew instantly I'd done something serious, didn't know what.
Was that your first major injury?
First
I can't
major.
really remember you ever being injured before that.
It was horrendous.
This is going to be a big one. Should we have a break quickly?
Right, Bridgie, tell us about this injury then.
It happened in the Champions League, Sam. It was so innocuous. Like, I've got nothing to show me kids, an unbelievable tackle. And I'm laughing about it now, but it was... Gary Kelly played a ball. We were over in Turkey in Besiktas. Gary Kelly played a lovely channel ball with his right foot. I literally made the run between the centre half and the left back, and I just felt instantly like this pain. I knew I'd done something serious, and I went down and thought, well, what the hell? I've got to be a leg break. First major serious injury, and all I remember is the Besiktas defender grabbing me hair. He lifted, because I've got my head down, arms in the air, I'm waving, and I'm just in a heap.
You know you're injured.
I was I can't experience it, and then the adrenaline, whatever your body does to you, kicks in, so you lose that sense of pain, and you're like, I was just disorientated, think what's going on.
Gone in a shock.
Yeah. And I literally remember the guy picking me head up and grabbing me hair and calling me as a cheating bastard. And he threw me head into the floor, and there's an amazing picture of me on the ground with the Besiktas players around us, but Viduka had his hand around this guy's throat. That call as a cheat. Yeah. And he said, obviously, whatever was being said. Half a year later, when they found out how bad it was and I was ready to hang the boots up, I actually got a letter off this defender just apologising from the club.
Yeah, good.
Saying, which I thought was, absolutely incredible. But at the time, I didn't know what I'd done. And we had a physio called Dave Hancock. And as I was on the stretcher, Dave's like, trying to assess what's going on, what you feel, and I said, I don't know, Dave, and I'm like just struggling to breathe. And I looked up and I could see all these stars in the sky, and I'm going, oh, bloody hell, because I've had a bit of the stick, so I'm thinking, and all of a sudden the stars started getting closer and closer, and it was bloody silver coins from the fans thrown.
I thought it was going to be some really poignant moment there, like some sort of spiritual awakening.
I genuinely thought.
Pain
So
there.
I'm getting off there.
It's getting coins.
Mate, this is priceless. So it's the thing that kind of brought us around, because these coins started hitting us, and the guys that are carrying, and Dave Hancock. So Dave went over, like literally lay over the top of me to cover my face.
Yeah.
The guys that are carrying the stretcher have got their heads down. Dave's covered me, and then this bottle hit him. Plastic bottle, but it was full of something. And he kind of knocked himself out.
To be fair.
Nice.
Well, man, the year before we lost two when we played Galatasaray. We lost Kevin and Chris that died. Derailed our whole season because we were shocked. We knew Kevin and Chris, and it was horrendous. So to go back to Turkey in Besiktas and have this injury happen, and then see Dave get hit with a bottle, and I started laughing as I was like, really. And Dave's kind of knocked out on the stretcher. So the flight home, I remember having my leg.
The flight home as well, so you were injured, and then you got all that.
Couldn't get any medical there. We were literally flying out that night, and I had my foot in an ice bucket the whole way home. And because of the swelling, like literally, they didn't know what was going on. But I couldn't get an MRI scan until the swelling went down. So it was about day 2 or 3 of being back. I woke up this morning, my leg was throbbing. And I lifted the sheets back, and I literally my leg was black from the toe to about halfway up my shin. And I remember looking, thinking, whoa, something like this has gone pear-shaped. Rang Dave, Dave came over, rushed us and said, we've got to get this done. You've got an internal bleed. So what was happening, all the ligaments that I'd snapped around the ankle and the tendons, one of them was just bleeding. I basically had a major bleed in my leg. So got the operation done, and it was horrendous, the amount of damage. So I'll never forget the surgeon actually said the only time you snap the outside sheath called the retinaculus sheath,
right,
which holds in like your ligament around the back of your ankle bone. But I'd done it on the inside, and he said he'd only ever seen it on a motorbike accident. And they basically pinned the 3 ligaments with crocodile clips back to my leg, and I've still paralysed my big toe. I can't bend my big toe. Every time I bend it, it just flicks back. It's like my big toe's on Viagra.
I'll do a video of that for Instagram a bit later. We've had a couple more beers.
Honestly, it's like your big toe's on Viagra. You can't bend it, it just pops back in. So still got damage. So I was told, he said you'll never play ever again. And that moment was like a massive reality check. So I got offered a check from my insurance. It was about £2.5 million.
I've heard this. So your insurance has said they'll pay out, but obviously if you take out £2.5 million, you can never play football.
Deal or no deal.
So basically, that was it.
That is like a massive carrot for you at that stage when you're being told.
Is it though? I'm mentally, physically, obviously, you're
I was told I'd never play again.
Yeah, but mentally, how are you coping with that?
For me now, just to set this, like you are now, you've got £2.5 million being put in front of you. Yeah. You're being told you're never going to play again. I cannot wait to hear, but cannot wait to hear what you do next, because that is a massive carrot to dangle in front of you.
Massive carrot. I was ready to take it there and then. You finished, and it was Dave Hancock, the physio. He went on to physio for Chelsea, England, Washington Redskins, or Washington now, and the New York Knicks. He's incredible. Dave saved my whole career and my whole life and my whole mindset. So he literally said it was in the car on the way, like heads all over, head spin, you can't just grab it. He said, you will play again. And he said, it won't be at the top level.
That's amazing faith.
You will play again. He said, not at the top level, you'll play again. He said, if you stick by me and you work your arse off for the next, I had the luxury of still having a 3-year deal. If it had been at the end of that season, I was done.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have played again. Simple as that. I would have taken the easy option out.
And I suppose on that, Bridgie, just, and again, obviously if I'm wrong, then fair enough. But I suppose that'll always be on the table for you. So you didn't have to take it there and then. If it was a year later, would it still been a 2.5?
I can't remember. I think there was a time period.
Because that's the reason I say deal or no deal.
Maybe it was playing a game. You could train, but until you played a game.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I suppose you weren't in a rush to just take it.
I didn't even that mindset didn't come in.
Nah.
Because once Dave said, you're 21 years of age, you've got 15 more years in the game, you'll play at some form of level. He said, you can't even go and have a kick around with your mates in the park or like your Sunday league team. That money, they'll take it off you. You can't ever play again.
Right.
He says it's going to be 14 to 15 months of hard work. And I thought, fucking hell, because I knew the lads were like, if you were injured with Dave, you were in at 7 a.m. and he didn't leave till 5.
Take it.
He was the first one that changed, because normally when you're injured, you'd come in at whatever, you do whatever, and you get your treatment and then piss off. This was full on, and I ended up sleeping at Dave's house to get extra treatment. Thank God he was single. But at the end of the rehab, I was thinking, God, I wish you'd get a wife or a girlfriend just so you can give us some freedom. But he saved me career, and it was long and hard.
So you turned it
down. Played. Finally got back. I mean, it was.
That
I had to learn to walk again, man.
Yeah, so
on a treadmill.
But you said like you were massive low. I mean, we've spoken before in the podcast.
Not that one.
All right.
Like I wasn't a low, but once I had the mindset to get back, and he said to us, I was like,
so I'm focused.
Mentally,
you're all right.
Went for it. Bike sessions.
You've got a purpose, and you like.
It was like doing pre-season with Ed Barnofsky again.
Yeah.
But over 14 months instead of 1 month. And it was.
So you're just like focused. I know tough. I've got a goal. I know what I'm doing.
Finally gets back to play a reserve game. I looked at Dave. I shook his hand. I says, mate, thank you so much. You've proved it wrong. He still uses that video of the operation. They recorded it. He still uses that as like a. See, I'm a GNVQ. I can't remember. You and A-level students.
Training video.
As an education for other surgeons and players to show what you can get back from. And they use that as like a thing around America now. So I got the first reserve game in. Brilliant.
Feel amazing that.
Didn't care how crap I played. I had a honker, but I didn't care. I wore the Leeds jersey again. It was
amazing.
7 games, and then O'Leary said, right, we're playing Malaga, UEFA Cup, you're in. Wednesday night. I was like, my God, this is amazing. 4 minutes into the game, snapped Achilles left tendon. And I was like, what's going on? He says, it's compensation from your left. He said, you've done your Achilles.
Yeah, which happens, doesn't it?
8 months. So then, luckily I had a brain for football. I lost my pace, and that was me. After 14 months of hard yakka to get back and then realise you're going to have to do another 8 or 9, mentally couldn't do it. Physically knew I was done. And if I hadn't met me missus at the time, Kate, I would have been, and my best mate Gary introduced us actually. I don't know whether I should be thanking him or not, but he introduced us to Kate when I was injured.
She's not thanking him.
Injured from my first injury.
Yeah.
And luckily she was there for when I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and she went through the whole process again with us, and I really hit rock bottom then.
But that is like, it's hard enough being injured the first time, but you've come through that and thought fair play. But to happen again, that is a proper test.
It was a test of mental character. It was a test of, can you go through that thing again? And I took the easy option out the second time. I hit the bottle. I wasn't answering phone calls when lads were ringing us, when physios or family were ringing us. So
you're pushing your friends.
And lost me way. Curtains were closed. Didn't want to get out of the house. Didn't want to leave and all that.
What about your mum and dad? Because they were.
Well, they lived up here and I was living in Leeds, and they were amazing. They tried. They came down, but I think people that you were close to, you pushed away further.
Yeah.
And you didn't know. I didn't know at the time what it was and what I was going through. And luckily, again, Dave Hancock, my partner Kate, my wife now. Little guys and all your mates, you finally find a way, and there's worse things going on in the world.
Yeah, of course.
People have lost their leg.
Of course there is, but it's hard to
see the bigger picture. Yeah. And I got through it.
I bet you found out who your mates were as well, because I bet when you scored in that first season for Leeds, when you're top 5, suddenly you've got agents, your phone is red hot.
Do you know how many tickets I used to have to get for games to give out to the people in the local village of Wetherby? And when you're a piece of meat and you get off, I was left with tickets for games because nobody wanted a piece of you. Yeah. Incredible. So you find out your real mates and your real family. And that's the bigger picture I saw. And again, Dave Hancock says, mate, Dewberry's gone through it. He snapped his Achilles tendon, 8 months. Can you do it? I said, I can't. I'm done. He says, you'll get there. But I knew when I tried to get back training, because I lost the pace, I'd never play in the Premier League ever again.
Lost that spark a little bit.
Yeah. And after that, it took us Newcastle United with Bobby Robson for 6 months on loan.
I was at the end. So you come back. Yeah. You got yourself back after all that. I mean,
but you knew internally. You obviously can't divulge that information, can you, to the club?
No.
But internally, I'm done. I'm going to milk this.
I can't flow past people and stick one on the top.
I had the brain to play in the Premier League.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't have the physicality and the pace anymore to compete at that top level, and I knew that, and that was the hardest pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But you're not going to, like you said, Gav, you're not going to let people know that because there was a glimmer of hope. And then came at the end of the Leeds, when a little bit of financial shit that we went through with what had gone on, probably the private jets and all the cars that the club were giving away at the time, and the bonuses. I wonder where it all went tits up when everybody's got Mercedes and that.
Aston Martins everywhere.
Unbelievable. So it was a time where I had 6 months left in my contract. Eddie Gray said, there's not a contract here for you. He said, you're going to have to get away. Bobby Robson wants to have a look at you. And I've gone, get back home, see family.
Well, that must have felt amazing, though.
It did, and I need it for my psyche, like my mental thing, to be back in this region, because I felt so lonely and isolated down there.
Just back on that, Bridgie, just on that, like, I think it's important for us to mention, like, obviously, Sam just alluded to it there when he says, obviously, you found out who your mates were, and obviously going through it is horrendous, and, can't even imagine. But there was a lot that came out of it for you. You did get to find out who your close friends and family were. You did, like, all of your close confidants. And then, but it's okay to go through that, isn't it? Like, a lot of people are going, like, we've had a lot of messages, haven't we, from people who have messaged and saying, the podcast's doing so much for us. And people find things in life that are giving them that purpose. But it is okay, isn't it? Like, in that moment of disappointment, we obviously, as all lads, go, yeah, I'm all right. Of course I'm all right. But actually, it is okay to go through that moment of keeping the curtains shut, because it is a time of just transition for you. So would you say, like, it's okay to go through that, because obviously as long as you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, but you can't let it go too far. Yeah, and you've got to be able to talk about it, because
of course,
and if that
massive for men these days, isn't it? And lads, isn't it?
Listen, my wife goes for coffees with her girlfriends, and they chat, and it goes in one ear and it stays in the middle bit in that brain.
Yeah.
I go with the lads and we're having a chat, and you listen to it and you go, one ear in, one ear out the other. We talk about sport, we talk about women, you talk about this and that, and you're going, we never say how you're doing. Are you feeling all right?
Never ever. We haven't even asked each other how we are, like, anyway now.
Well, I never would, Sam. I never did anyway.
No, but it's suddenly it's cuddles and it's banter and it's laughs, and then Con comes in, it's laughs. It's not like, how are you? How's the family? There's none of that, is there? Which it should be.
And I suppose our message is, it's important that, like, obviously you went through such a tough time. You're elite sport there. it's coming crashing down around you. There's so many questions, but it is okay to go through that moment of transition, knowing that at some point you are going to have to go, right, okay, I'm disappointed.
You've got to move on.
I've got to get on with it now.
Yeah,
like, what is the alternative?
Life's too short. Yeah. And there's so many opportunities out there, so many, diversity, like having another challenge, of freshen up, and that's what I needed. And I got it out with Bobby Robson and Newcastle United. The thing that really hurt me at Leeds, like I say, you find out who your friends and that are. There was somebody, I'm not going to name names, at the football club that had walked past me in the corridor, and we just signed Robbie Fowler for 13 million. And it was the week or two, maybe 3 or 4 weeks after I got injured. I don't know, I can't clarify because my head was like away in spaghetti land, so it could have been a lot longer. Walked past me in the corridor, and his words were, have you seen how much money you've cost us getting injured now we've had to spend on Robbie Fowler? And at that moment in time, I didn't need that. I needed a cuddle. I needed some sympathy. I needed help. And he just absolutely smashed as if it's my fault that the club have had to spend more money. And I was like, you know what it is? This is ruthless. I'm an off bit of meat.
Yeah. But that's what you said, a piece of meat. I mean, we had the same conversation with Joe, didn't we? When we spoke to Joe, and he's saying like, it is ruthless. It is top end, not just sport, top end business, isn't it? You are a commodity.
It's the elitist.
And you are like, there you are. You're worth this. Hold on a minute. Suddenly, you're not worth 5 million. You're worth 0. So get
I was like the car that I got rid of to get me MG. I was that little bit of rust bucket. Do you know what I mean? Like they're looking for a fresh. So it was horrible, and you go through, but the fresh start and that new mindset, the new help, the new change of scenery, it does people a world of good. Yeah. And I got that with Bobby, and I went there.
How was he? I mean,
just incredible. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a story like about Bobby, what he was. When I signed, I knew I couldn't play in that level again.
So did you not feel a bit worried about going there? I think I'm not good enough to go there.
Yeah, because it was Shearer, Bellamy, Shola Miobi, Lauren Rebel, and I'm thinking I'm going here as a little. But I thought, change of scenery, mindset, I'm there. I mean, my first game against Leicester, I've had if my left foot hadn't have been my right foot hadn't have been as damaged, and my left foot was obviously useless. And I scored against Leicester 6 yards out. I took the ball off Bellamy and I skied it into the bloody into Gallagher. That moment could have changed my whole time at Newcastle. Instead of getting I'm known for an own goal at Newcastle instead of scoring a goal. That was, it was fucking terrible. But
it's hard for you because even when you went to Leeds, you had that bit of magic. You always produced something where everybody went, and I couldn't flip it, and you couldn't do that. You couldn't produce the magic.
So mentally, I was drained that way. But it was a new, fresh start, new lads around. You I was there with Woodgate and Boyer as well from Leeds.
So you old mate.
So I had a few lads there. I knew Alan from back in the day. Shea Given was there.
Yeah,
it was
brilliant.
Room with Shea when we got promoted. Yeah. So there was all them things that I was hanging on to, and best thing about Bobby when I signed. I remember I loved his voice. He went, "Welcome to the club, Gary." And I remember going, I went, genuine. I went, "Bobby, it's Michael." "I know, son, I'm just testing you." Test of character. So I looked around. I was looking for Gary Speed, thinking, well, if he's mistaken me for Gary Speed, I've got half a chance here because Gaz is a good-looking lad. He's a good player. Rest in peace, Gaz. Yeah. But it was incredible. But I found out, obviously, Steve Caldwell went in a transfer to Leeds from me as a loan. Oh, Stevie Caldwell, and his brother Gary was there, and me and Gary looked quite similar. And Gary just left to go to Scotland. So
Bobby styled it out quite well, to be fair.
So he styled it out and he got away with it. And he used to call Lee Bowyer Neil. Now, I used to call Lee Bowyer Roland Rat because he looks like a rat. And Neil, the kit man at Newcastle, who's still there, looks like a rat. Yeah. So Bobby used to call Neil Lee. And he used to call Lee Neil. Well, Lee Boyer's got a firework. He's a fuse, ready to flip at any time. Yeah. Not having had a fight with him in Derby Hotel over a bowl of pasta. Over a little bit of pasta that hit him in the head and he didn't like it and we just kicked off. Brilliant. So to see Lee kick off and go, "For fuck's sake, Bobby, it's Lee, not Neil." And he went, "You've brought the trust, young man." I thought, I'll never. Yeah, so he used to call me Gary every morning. So this went on for years. Bobby met me missus in the Players' Lounge once. Kate.
Yeah.
He used to love what I love about Bobby, he wanted to build relationships with you and the whole family. Yeah. Michael introduced me. I said, "Oh, Bobby, this is my wife, Kate. And what do you do?" She went, "Oh, I'm an ex-Irish dancer. I used to dance in Vegas with Michael Flatley." "Oh my God, you've got quick feet. Can you help your husband out? His feet are very slow, lady. He needs some quick feet." Slow, and I was like, "Bobby, man, how are you?" She's like, "You're gorgeous. Love you. Lovely lady. Look after him. Yeah. Oh, you're a lucky boy." Yeah. Brilliant. So meets me missus once, remembers her name, Kate. So years later, I've been, I've had a shocker. I'll tell you a quick one about Bobby as well after this. Years later, I've gone to Bobby Robson's Cancer Foundation in Portugal. And bless him, he was on his, he'd beat it 4 or 5 times, and we knew that it wasn't very good. And he's coming up the plane to say hi to everybody. And I said to Kate, "What are you going to call us, Gary or Michael?" Here we go. And he's introducing himself. Media. What I love about Bobby, media were there; they were part of it as well. People that helped him through his career, managers, coaches. And he come up and he went, "Good to see you, Gary." And I went, "He went, only kidding, Michael." And he went, "And good to see you as well, Kate."
Quality.
Oh, mate.
Love it.
Bobby off to a tee, and I know he's upstairs, and I don't know how this will go down, but I said to Bobby, how the hell do you remember Kate's name after all this time? Michael, if you had a pair of tits like her, I'd remember your name, son. Legend, mate. Absolute legend.
Love it.
What about Alan Shearer? Tell us about Alan Shearer.
So Bobby, to show you how amazing he was, he told me that he was going to give us another year at Newcastle.
Oh, wow.
He said, "I need to see more of you. You've still got something. I just don't know where it is." I didn't want to say, "Mate, my legs are done. I'm your Achilles." And he said, and I thought, brilliant, I'll get another opportunity. I was driving down to Leeds. It's the off-season, finished the season. Bobby asked us to pull over at Middlesbrough, Twin Servos or somewhere. And he said, "Ring us back when you've pulled over. I need to have a chat with you." I thought, "Oh, something's gone down here." He said, "I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to have to pull the contract away from you." He said, "I'm going to do everything in my power to get you a new deal at another football club. I'm going to do this for you. I never go against my word. This has been taken out of my hands. I'm really sorry, young man." He went on and on. "Are you okay? Do you need somebody to come and meet you at the side of the road to get you to Leeds?" No, Bobby, I'm okay. Like, what's happened? And he went on and on. He wanted to make sure. He said, "Carry on driving. I'll stay on the phone till you get to Leeds." I'm like, "Mate, it's an hour. I can't, you don't want to, I'm upset." No, I'll stay with you. "Bobby, I'm okay. Thank you. I'll give you a call when I get to Leeds." Amazing. So I rang my dad, literally put the phone down, rang my dad. I said, "Dad, I've had some shit news." I said, "Bobby's just rang us and told us that there's no contract there." He went, "Oh, you haven't seen the breaking news, have you?" I says, "What's happened?" He said, "Bobby's been sacked." He never mentioned it. It was all about me.
Class.
I rang him back and I said, "Bobby, I've got to ask you, how are you?"
Yeah. Class.
Mate, unbelievable. That's the class act of the man. Yeah. That is Bobby Robson, Sir Bobby Robson.
Yeah,
there you go. So that'll just give you an insight. And Alan, did you say Alan?
Yeah.
Tight horse. Tightest man I've ever met. But an absolute, he took us under his wing from the age of 19 when I had the same agent.
Why do you think? Why has he liked you so much in his career?
I think because I didn't blow smoke up his arse, and I've always tried to challenge him, and I've always been a bit cheeky, and he behind the scenes.
So he was good for you when you went to Newcastle. Newcastle, amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Was he aware that you weren't quite the same player you were?
And we'd have a chat and he'd do some sessions. Had a game of golf, and he's always just been, I think, Northeast as well, especially because of Jack Hickson. That was our connection.
Big connection.
Jack wanted to see me and Alan play for England together.
Yeah,
he never got to see that, but he got to see me play with Alan Shearer at Newcastle before he passed away, and that's all Jack wanted to see, and Alan always talk about that. So it's, I always play golf with him when I come back. Nice taking money off him. But like I say, because that's the only time you can get money off him. Because when you get things for free all your career,
I think he's probably all right for a couple of quid as well.
Well, the thing is, you know what it is when you're Alan, you go somewhere, you forget that you've actually got to pay for shit because people give it to you for free.
Yeah, of course they do.
And you're like,
Alan,
where are you going? Well, just get it. No, are you kidding us? I walked, man. You're multi-million.
You get it.
But what I'd like to say, the probably similar to what I was saying about the striker Kev.
Yeah,
Alan just worked at what he was good at. So Alan, a lot from people say work on your weaknesses and try and get your weaknesses better. Alan said focus on your strengths.
Funny that we've mentioned that before about your super strength and saying like actually you've got something that it makes you stand out with.
That's
so
what
you work on
all
that.
About, mate.
Yeah. Like you can obviously improve your weaknesses a little bit, improve your game. But if you're brilliant at dribbling or whatever, that's what's making you stand out. So that is where you excel.
Massively.
I agree.
I'm with that.
I'm trying to think of the winger. I think it was a lad called Bratton. He just Alan just used to get him on the right wing. A young lad, he could deliver a ball like David Beckham. Yeah. Playing for the youth team. Alan used to just get him and whip balls in. Alan would just head them and volley them and head them. And this young kid, bless him, I think Alan finished his career because his leg was hanging off.
Right, legs hanging off.
Every single day.
I've got a match in the morning. Keep crossing them. Keep crossing.
Cross the ball.
You mentioned England there, and obviously, won it.
You played 18s and 21s, didn't you?
Never. Yeah.
How close were you to the senior squad?
very, very close. Like I say, every age group playing with England. And what I used to love, I was, like Sam said, I was a total nightmare. I was a prankster. I was a piss taker. And even when I got with England, the only lads that had really made the first team appearances when we got together for the under-18s was Emile Heskey. I'd seen him play for Leicester. Yeah. M was a big boy. He looked like a doorman.
Yeah.
And there was myself at Sunderland. The other players, I'd never heard of them. Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand.
Where did they end up anyway?
Yeah, not too sure. We had a fantastic England setup. David Thompson, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Tomo, Michael Branch, Franny Jeffers. It was a good setup. I was rooming with Emile Heskey, so it was so funny. Remember Puma Kings?
Yeah, of course.
Boxes of Puma Kings delivered, and I've got me Quasar laser still. I hadn't had a sponsorship deal, and I'm looking, going, God. And he was lying on his bed, and he just grunted. I went, all right, big man. Yeah. There was not a lot of camaraderie between the two of us because it was first time together, and I'm looking at him going, God, he's massive, physically, just a tank. And he wasn't into the pranks in the games, but I teamed up with David Thompson from Liverpool, so another little tear away from a Scouser. Yeah. So two little grubs, and we used to love just getting going around and trashing bedrooms. Yeah. Putting mattresses out the windows of the hotels, turning the rooms upside down, leaving Mark Convery's little number twos in little place and stuff like that.
TV in the bath and that. Yeah.
just class and doing stuff like that. And I used to come back into my room, and basically Heskey, I said, if they come in, don't let them touch the room. Yeah, no problem. So funny. I came into my room one day, and literally half the room, you could have put a line down the half of the room. They were shit scared of him because he just used to lie in his bed and watch the TV, and my room was trashed. And Emile's, I think he used to polish his boots as they left the room.
Your heart's gone, your clothes are everywhere. Emile's is immaculate.
Man, and then me and Tomo found the shaver, and you remember Richard Wright, the goalkeeper at Arsenal in Ipswich? He had massive ears, FA Cup. Yeah. We shaved his head. Man, he cried.
Devastated.
Devil went and cried to Ted Bates.
He can't pull off a shaved head.
Ted Powell and all them. So me and Tomo had to shave our heads just to look like we were part of the gang and all. Oh, man. So that was I was kind of the prankster with the lads. And then Michael Owen came on the scene, and I'll never forget. So our front three was myself, Heskey, and Michael Owen. And I played behind the two of them. Sorry, me and Heskey up front, 4-4-2. Yeah. Mike Bassett. And Owen came on the scene. I was like, my God, who is this kid? And again, similar to Kevin Phillips, I remember turning to Heskey and I said, one of us is not playing. And Emile went, it'll be you. And I remember looking at the big man going, you're right, baby. And he was right. But it was that new, remember when Sven took over and they had the new guard? You give the young'uns a go. And I was named in Sven's squad for Germany the following year for the World Cup. And he was just naming the squad of two teams, 2-11s. I think it was Australia actually beat us. 3-1 at Upton Park, and he played the seniors, and then he had another 11 for the second half, and I snapped my leg the week before in Besiktas. So I was so close to getting that international.
So you would have been in.
Yeah. So people always ask us, what would you change? Would you change that injury to get that? And I always say, I'm a big believer in fate. And I'm going to sound really sad and soppy, but I'm going to say I met my missus through that injury through Gaz, my best mate. Yeah. And we're still together. We've got twin boy and girl. We live in Australia. Yeah. Wouldn't change it for the world.
It would be nice to get an England cap, though.
Now that we're off air, I wish I'd got 10 England caps.
I wish I'd had the England cap.
Would you give one of your kids away for one England cap? So just obviously then we'll go full scale. We've gone from obviously being in the England squads around the 18s and 21s and just missed out on that senior. It's been an unbelievable career, and you sort of come full scale now. What are you thinking about? Obviously, I know you've got a big career in media over in Australia, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but around football, is there what level have you done in terms of coaching? Is that an aspiration of yours? Do you still want to be involved in it, or are you happy being on that side of the television? Or
it's an unbelievable question, that Gav. I've done all my badges.
You got pro license.
You got pro license. I've coached from when I retired over in Australia. I started coaching as a striking coach and a bit of a mentor for the strikers that were over there. Then I took up the youth team role. Absolutely loved it. You're going and having a bit of banter. You're
imagine that's a bit
the lads, mentoring, and when you're the head coach, it's different. As long as you've got a good assistant manager that can still have the bit of banter. The youth team, the lads used to love it because they've got an ex-player at the highest level in Europe. Yeah, and they've seen you play for the Jets, so that was a great mentoring role. Absolutely loved it, and then got asked to be the assistant manager for the seniors. And that was the way I was going. And we had a massive problem with our owner, a guy called Nathan Tinkler, mining magnate, had millions, changed the club, got David Beckham, the LA Galaxy, to come and play us for a million quid, whatever David got, don't know. But things were on the up. And then he just stopped paying the players and the staff and all that. And I resigned, and I thought, you know what, I can't take this anymore. I've got to live in this town. And it was really tough. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go away and have a bit of like a year out. Bought a restaurant and bar, tried a bit of hospitality. Didn't go down too well.
Do you know anything about that business?
Was it? Not Whitley Bay.
You can't give things away to your mates when you're trying to make business. As we're drinking my best mate's free beer.
Drinking free beers,
Just really Gaz is like that. You've had about 20 bottles of Slow Joe here.
So, you know, your mates are coming and say, I have a drink. You forget to charge them. It was like having Alan Shearer's in all the time.
It's packed every night, but we made about 50 quid.
So I was just too generous. And my missus was going, what are you doing? This is shite. So then I tried... because I love talking, I can talk underwater. Tried the media, doing a bit of analysis work on games, and you know, like when you've been in the game that long, you learn to wise up to the questions where they're trying to trick you in that, and just love watching football as you would be watching it. But people are saying, "Oh, we'll pay you to do it," and really enjoyed doing that. But there's a bug inside of you that you want to coach. So finished off the badges for five years, pro diploma. I didn't think I'd ever be able to use a laptop, because I couldn't use one. I knew you could press enter and delete when I retired. And then after 5 years of coaching, you know, you're doing keynote presentation, you're doing guest speakers, you're doing the analysis, and you're planning sessions, and you're learning the whole structure, and you go, my God, now I know what goes into football. They don't just tell you to go out and play 11v11 5-a-side. There's a bit more goes into this.
That's why they're getting annoyed at you when you're just flicking one round the corner when they've got this whole system set up and everything, and you're just trying to do a step over and make someone.
Exactly.
That's not the weird patterns we've been working on.
So my mindset in that, like, because I was an entertainer, I used to say to the young lads in the youth team, if you're going to get spotted and you're going to go places, do something different. Don't be a robot. I want to see something different. I want you to express yourself, because you don't know who's watching. You might have one little blip. So Australia, the philosophy is this Dutch pass, like 900 passes in your own half. I'm all about breaking into the final third, and many times you can. Love watching Jurgen Klopp, and learned a lot of my mate David Drillich that had been at RB Leipzig. He was working under the press many years ago, and just bouncing ideas off loads of coaches. I love it, and I love that side of the game. Brilliant. And that's coaching in Australia men's senior football now, not A-League, but the I would say the second tier. They're trying to do B leagues and all that, and I really enjoyed it. Just being a mentor, but understand that the role I'm doing is amateur football. Well, some are part-time. I call it hybrid. We've got a couple of pros that are full-time, and then you've got a few that are semi-pros. They've got jobs, and you've got to remember, like 3 nights a week, game at the weekend. They don't want to come in and be brainwashed by so much analysis. No. So for me to go from being a pro coach to a kind of semi-pro coach, it's just getting them turn up and playing and enjoying it, and then mentoring the ones that want to go further. So I love it. So media pays the bills. Yeah, coaching.
Opta, isn't it, in Australia?
Opta Sport. Yeah, so we do the Premier League and really enjoy that. But like I say, there's something going to bring us back. And I've gone for the Carlisle job a couple of times. I don't mind saying it. I went before Chris Breach got hold of it. Got a good affiliation with the fans then. I remember turning up I met David Holdsworth in Carlisle. Yeah. Had to present me philosophy to him and ask what the club's philosophy was, and that process for me was brilliant. Obviously, got down to whatever it was, the last 3, and he said, "Oh, we're going to go with." Breach said, "Brilliant. Can you give us feedback? What can I improve on my next interview?" Yeah. I didn't just say, "Oh, why not?" Yeah. Give us feedback, David. I want to know where, because when I go for the next one, I want to be spot on. And he gave us amazing feedback, and you've just got to make sure that you're ready for that right opportunity. And so
that's still something you might look at.
I want to coach, Sam. I've seen
being a coach or
head coach, manager. Because I love that. I know I can talk to the media. As you can tell, I can talk shit. Talking about it. I know I can speak to sponsors. You do guest presentation, all the rest. You tell a story. You get that. I love mentoring, and I've worked on this. Your football philosophy. There's things that you want to try, and I'll just love it. And picking bits out of the best managers in the world. I mean, I've worked under a lot of managers. You've seen when Gav was reading me bloody teams. Yeah, that was nearly an hour.
Well, I mean, I think Terry Venables. Did you work? Him Leeds as well.
Leeds for small time as well. O'Leary, Peter Reid. The only one I wouldn't be using anything from is a guy called Phil Brown or Gary Johnson.
Phil Brown from Hull.
Oh, mate.
What? No good.
What an arrogant bastard. Honestly. Honestly, I feel.
He's the one like you sang on the pitch and all that.
If you give him this microphone to do a podcast, he'd start singing.
Yeah.
We got promoted, and it was all about, he did a great job at Hull to get them promoted, but the way he treated myself and about 5 or 6 other players, I'm not a bad egg. Yeah. And the way Dean Windus and Nick Barmby stood up for me, I mean, Phil said to me I was a piece of cancer, used the C word. And the lads stood up and said, whoa, not happening. Yeah. And that's why I went over to Australia, just to get away from the guy. His tactical knowledge is unbelievable. His man management to disgrace. Yeah. So I'll have my day with him one day.
So you learn from people like that as well, though, don't you? Not how to
handle it. You can't do that these days. Yeah. You can't do that.
I think, and you've just sort of described there, Bridgie, that you've got all of these positives and all of these brilliant experiences, but you've also can call on a lot of the tougher experiences, whether they've been injuries, whether they've been Muppet managers or whatever it is. So, mate, I think you'd be an unbelievable asset for any club, and I think that opportunity will come for you, especially as you can see your passion.
Appreciate that, Gavin.
And I think as well, what brilliant is when lads get injured. You know what I mean? You've been there, you've done it in them dark times. Like that's when as a player, like when I was injured, some managers, like I was talking about how good John Gorman was and I broke my ankle, and they ringing me all the time. And I thought, I remember that. Like I'll always remember that. Looked after me when I was no use to him. Whereas not every manager's like that.
We've said it about playing, and we've said it about management or business or life. It's important to be a brilliant person as opposed to a good player or a good manager. Like, ultimately, be a good person. And I think as a player, you say it yourself, don't you? All I want is a manager who's going to be honest. He's just going to be honest with me. I can take it. I can be accountable. We had Joe on the podcast, and again, Simon Jordan took it a bit far because he obviously didn't listen to the podcast. But Joe took that feedback, whether it was from Nuno, whether it is from Pep Guardiola, and he just went, okay, that's fine. Really appreciate you being honest. Yeah. Really appreciate you letting me know where I stand. It's up to me now, the recipient, how I'm going to deal with it. So
that was Bobby Robson and Mick McCarthy, to be fair. Yeah. When we got promoted, when Mick got the Premier League. And he said, I'm going to buy players. I'm going to buy strikers. He said, so we've got Marcus Stewart, we've got Stewie Elliott, we've got yourself. I'm going to buy three more strikers for the Premier League. He says, mate, you've got another year in your contract. You can stay, might get injuries, suspensions, you'll get an opportunity, or I'll help you find another club where you're going to play because you've missed so much time and injury. And I went, Mick, I've got nothing. I can't even go here. Why? Because you've just explained it there and then. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Legend.
Be honest. Lay his cards on the table. Mate, that's amazing. Before you go, what we do with all our guests is you've got to name your five-a-side team, your best five-a-side team. Oh. So all the people you've played with, who are you putting in goal? So you played with Nigel Martin.
See, Paul Sam, if it was 11v11, you'd be on there on the right wing, but it's five-a-side, mate.
I will not be offended. In fairness, I put you on the bench for mine, didn't you? I don't let that influence you, but I won't be offended if you go for Harry Kewell instead of me. I'll take on the
Can you cop that? Can you?
And you'll probably call us when we're on the way home because you will go, flipping out, forgot about him. But off the cuff, putting you on the spot.
Goalkeeper, Shea Given. Because obviously five-a-side, smaller goals, he's just perfect stature. He was my roommate at Sunderland. I played him at Newcastle.
Class act.
Shea's a class act. Looked after me off the field as well when I was his roommate. When he snuck me out in Manchester at Mottingham Hall when Peter Reid wouldn't let us out. Just a legend.
Now, we're talking about formations now. Because again, just to give you a bit of an insight, Bridgie.
I'm an attacker.
So I went in with like a defender that's not a defender. So I played like a number 4 midfielder who would step in because I'm like, it's five-a-side. So you're dropping. We're going to win the game.
Yeah. Who did you pick?
A guy called Neil Sorvell. Don't know if you remember Sorvell. Yeah. So I put him in there.
Right. So I can do that.
Dave Edwards' team is the best team so far.
Sam put Niall Quinn up front.
In a five-a-side?
Because he wanted to go back to front. Yeah, he wanted to miss out of midfield.
Don't underestimate Quinny's touch.
No.
Quinny has a good touch.
So you've gone route one and five-a-side.
Yeah. I've gone route one. Get the ball forward.
I've got lads who aren't even tying their laces, turning balls around the corner, flicking it over people's heads.
Dave Edwards' team was Joe Hart in goal, Conor Cody in defence, Aaron Ramsey and Ruben Neves and Gareth Bale up front. So take some beating that.
I'm going to give you a good run for your money.
I was going to say.
So there's two centre-half. Well, there's a centre-half I'm going to mention, but I'm going to take one. I've played with Rio Ferdinand.
It's decent.
He's all right, isn't he?
Decent start.
Ball player. Loved the way he did. But I'm going to take Woodgate.
Woodgate instead of Rio.
Because I had more of a relationship with Woody off the field. Rio was there for a short time. Yeah. And he went on to play for Real Madrid. Now, for me, he just got injured. And
his debut makes me laugh.
Oh, mate, honking.
Real Madrid, he scored an own goal, got sent off or something.
They loved him, and then he scored, didn't he? No, he scored an own goal.
Scored an own goal, then got red carded.
That's it, yeah. And then he come back the next game, he scored 2 goals, didn't he?
Yeah,
and just ran around the pitch.
But I remember when
he
we were
had
kids,
really bad injuries.
Yeah, he was like a revelation when we were kids, and we all heard about this kid coming through, and he was, like you say, he was a ball player. Like,
do you know what I look back on at Leeds United? I know we're diverting here, but the injury you mentioned there, I had an injury nightmare at Leeds and after. Harry Kewell went to Liverpool, never really recovered with hip flexors. Woodgate went to Real Madrid, then Spurs, never really recovered with these hip flexors. Stephen McPhail, Achilles tendon problems. There's something that Alan Smith had a nasty injury at Man United. We don't know, and I might be totally thinking outside the box, whether there was something that we were doing at Leeds United at the time in all the years, whether it was overuse of the youth team that they were playing in the thing. The amount of injuries that group of players do with Achilles tendons.
Yeah, you can't rule that out, can you? When there's such
a big coincidence. It could be a coincidence, but you just don't know.
It's too late now. But it's just, you know, it was like it scares me when I look back at that. So I'm going to take Woody, even though he had injuries. If he hadn't,
because he would step in, wouldn't he? He's like a player.
He was a ball player. It was before him and Rio were the first ones, I think, change England's style of defending. 4-4 because they could play the ball. I've got to put in on the left hand side. It's got to be Harry Kewell. Got to be.
He's your mate, and he's getting in as his mate, isn't he?
5-a-side and 11-a-side, anything. We just had a competition on and off the field. Like I say, it was my brother drinking the Smirnoff the quickest, eating the pizza the quickest, playing Pro Evolution.
Did he do the straw with the Smirnoff?
Smirnoff. Eating pizzas, Pro Evolution soccer, Tiger Woods golf. It was just a competition from start to finish. It was just brilliant. We challenged each other. He has one for you.
Go on,
mate. Probably something I've seen this guy do things in training that I've seen him do on the field, and I've seen a lot of players do them in training and not do them on the field or have the courage or the balls to do it. Bolton Wanderers with JJ Okocha.
That's one for shout, isn't it?
Man.
Was he unbelievable?
Ridiculous. Do you know the best thing about JJ, right?
I wouldn't have even thought about him. I forgot about your time at Bolton.
He was so good, right? Just an amazing guy as well. But the best thing about JJ, he turned up one day in a black Ferrari, which looked like it was from the 1950s. And as he pulled it in training, I was like, JJ, what the hell is this? A new car? No. I just find it in an apartment in London from my old house. So you've got a Ferrari in your garage in London that you never knew you had.
Doing all right then, aren't you?
Geezer was just made of money, like, and he forgot he had a Ferrari in London in an apartment.
Forgot about this little run around. I give it a little blast.
He played for PSG before.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah.
So, mate, just an unbelievable character.
That is some talent. I never would have put. If you'd asked me to predict your team on the way down, I would never have thought about him.
So the number 9,
big man.
Number 9. There's 2. Well, there could be 3. Could be 3 in there. So there's Kev Phillips has got in there.
Yeah.
But there's Mark Viduka, and he was sensational. But I've got to take Alan Shearer. I've got to take Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer all day long. On and off the field.
Like the greatest for me.
Yeah. Tightest but the greatest. And like you say, you know, Premier League all-standing record holder. And I think Harry Kane may do him if he stays injury-free. Yeah. I know Alan's hoping that he doesn't. Not that Alan would ever admit that, but he's desperate.
But doesn't want to overtake him.
And this is a...
You can have a couple of subs.
I've got here at the moment, I've just, on your behalf, I've just a couple that you've mentioned, I've put on the bench for you. You can take them off. But you've got Rio, Kev Phillips, Viduka.
It's a good little lineup, that, like, but I just, let's have a think. I've got to go, I'm not going to go for a ball player. I'm going to take somebody. If you're going to be on the bench, you've got to be happy being on the bench. I need a bit of camp. Because you need a bit of banter as well.
Oh, okay,
so that rules him out.
Scribble that out. Yeah.
So I'm going to take Gary Kelly.
Gary Kelly,
that's a big shout. He's done well. He's done well there. He'd be happy with that.
He's buzzing, isn't he?
He's happy to be in.
Good player though, wasn't he?
He really was a lunatic. Him and his wife Julianne. Everybody that came into Leeds United, he took them under his wing. He used to take them to the Bingley Arms. We used to play a game called Centurion. I mean, the Irish mentality, one and all in.
Play that in a minute, shall we?
Get the Centurion, put the stopwatch, put the clock on, and whatever you were drinking, you had to do a shot of beer every minute for a whole hour. And if the girls
won't play that then.
And if the girls were drinking, I mean, hey, it doesn't sound like much, but man, what a game. So Gary Kelly used to get all the girlfriends, the wives, the players, and we'd have a lock-in in the Bingley Arms, straight out the Bingley Arms, over at Kelly's house.
He's club captain of your five-a-side team.
Love that. Right, club captain.
He's me, man.
Done.
Mate, that's class.
Go. Wow.
Richie, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Absolute delight to see you. It's been a long time. Lovely to come back. Thanks to me little mate Con as well.
I know, I've had a little audience here.
See him, yeah, isn't it?
Good to see him.
And just for me, obviously, as a little bit of a bystander, listening to your story at the start, you two, and how you've both come through, and it's been brilliant listening to your junior clubs and the schools that you played against. So, mate, it's been brilliant. And I reiterate again, you will be an absolute asset to any club as a head coach or as a manager. So I look forward to seeing that career blossom, mate.
Thank you, boys.
As we always say as well, though, isn't it? Great footballer, but more important, a great person. That's the most important thing.
Brilliant.
Nice. Let's have a few drinks.
Do you want a little quote for you boys? Obviously, what you are doing, I love it. Thank you for having us on. Good luck with everything in the future. I know I've made the trifecta here, but Connor, Cody, Joe Hart, me, you need to step it up for the next one, all right? Let's go back to the top. Good luck with everything. And the best thing that I was told off my old man, nice to be important. It's more important to be nice.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at
that.
Yes, Bridgie.
Love it, Joe Bridges. Thanks very much, mate. Pleasure. See you later, everybody.